What is going on, people? We are Tottenham TV. Tottenham 3, Bodo Glimt 1 in the first leg of the semi-final of the Europa League. And it was quite a day yesterday at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, to say the least. And we're going to just go straight into the match review from last night. And where else to start but the unbelievable showing from the Tottenham Hotspur faithful yesterday. Oh my days. What a day it was in that aspect yesterday. Something that we've all been craving for so long. Pretty much since that 3-0 win against Arsenal, we've been craving that kind of big moment, that big occasion, and we definitely got that yesterday. Like, straight away, we got there quite early yesterday, and you could just sense it as soon as you got on the high road. Like, I was like... We parked like quite far away from the stadium yesterday, and it felt like for me it was a 5-minute walk. It was about a 20-minute walk to the stadium, and I was like floating along to the stadium. I was absolutely buzzing on my way there, and as soon as you hit that high road, particularly as soon as you kind of started walking towards the stadium after we had our drinks in the pub and everything like that, but when you were walking to the stadium just before like an hour and a half before kickoff, you could just sense it on that high street, isn't it? It was packed there. It was packed in the Park Lane Square. And then once you got into that stadium, literally you couldn't move. Like 3 levels of the stadium as you walk in, you could see it was just absolutely mobbed. Songs, literally just deafening. I couldn't believe how loud it was inside that stadium in the build-up till kickoff. Like, I actually had a banging headache pretty much from the start of the game up until... I still got it, to be honest. Absolutely banging headache. And that's not the alcohol. It was actually the noise inside that stadium. So credit to each and every Spurs fan that made it so special in that aspect.
Well, we, as you said, we were there, 2.5 hours before kickoff, and we went to the Bricklayers, and it was absolutely rammed. We couldn't even get a drink in there 2 hours before kickoff, so we had to move into another pub to go get a drink. And even that one was really busy as well. And everyone was... I think sensing the occasion, sensing that they had to make it something special. I think we've been so starved of any sort of kind of something to look forward to, any sort of like big game this season. Every time we've had big occasions, we've been let down, and they haven't really seemed that important kind of at the time. And you know, think about, like, for example, like North London Derby was right at the beginning of the season. There wasn't much riding on it apart from, you know, trying to get off to a good start. You've had all the cup games. I think with the ones that we went out on anyway were away from home. The ones at home, they were fairly decent atmospheres. But I think this season, this was one I think everyone was so looking forward to. I mean, obviously, I wasn't at the Frankfurt game. That was a quarter-final. I'm sure the atmosphere was, like, decent, but I just think everyone knew that, given all the pain we've been through, that we need to make sure that, if anything else, we were going to do our part yesterday. And we can't leave anything to chance from that point of view. We can't go at the end of this game thinking, oh, the crowd were flat, where they weren't on it. That's, you know, the players were feeding off negative energy. If we were gonna not get the result we wanted, it was basically not. We basically can't give any excuses because of us. And I think, look, we were on stream yesterday before the game, basically giving a call to arms, saying, everyone, whatever you've been feeling about the team, the manager, the hierarchy, whatever your feelings are, tomorrow, the semi-final is that game where everyone just needs to be on their A game. Everyone needs to be on top of their game, as loud as you can, as often as you can, and bring it to them and make it intense atmosphere and make sure it's an electric atmosphere. And boy, did we get that yesterday. It was absolutely phenomenal, and one of the best atmospheres, if not the best, we've seen at that stadium since we've been there. You know, you couldn't even hear the Europa League, which is exactly what I wanted. You couldn't even hear the Europa League music when it was on. It was being drowned out by the chorus of Spurs singing, "Oh, when the Spurs go marching in." The Tifo was fantastic. It looked brilliant. It was marvellous to see the sea of white as well, which Ange was pointing out when he said the players in the warm-up were looking at that sea of white and were just like really buzzing by it and like geared up by it. And I think the atmosphere and the occasion led to what was an unbelievable start, where we started like a house on fire.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the players were clearly feeding off it, clearly. And straight away, within 40 seconds, we go 1-0 up. And
before talking about what was the lineup, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, look, the lineup was very strange. Like, it threw us all off. It threw the fans off. It probably threw Bodo off. I mean, nobody expected Richarlison to start left wing. Nobody expected Bissouma to start in the midfield as well. And you got to say that Ange, it wasn't a wrong decision, because Bissouma played his best game of the season by far. Like, he was brilliant yesterday, Bissouma. And Richarlison, you know, was heavily involved in the first goal, working very hard out on that left-hand side. I don't think it was like a unbelievable performance from Richarlison, but he did a job, you know what I mean? Like, I would have still preferred, like, in hindsight, to see Udogie start out, or Tell start on that left-hand side, probably Tell. But I think when you see how heavily involved he was in the first goal, it's hard to say that it was a wrong decision. But still, like, I think when you're looking at how the game went, I would have still wanted someone on that left-hand side just to attack that space a bit more.
Yeah, well, to be fair, he came on half-time, so...
He didn't do much.
Exactly, so... It's hard to say starting him would have made him the biggest difference, but I think the plan. Obviously, I think we came into this game with a clear plan to get Richarlison a bit more kind of in the box, use his physical attributes with Porro crossing it to the back post, and within a minute it had worked. Porro put it on a really good ball. There was Richarlison just cushioning the header to Johnson at the back post, and we were calling for Udogie to start, but you put Johnson in, and there's Johnson doing what he does, making those runs into the box, being in the right place at the right time, and a brilliant finish. And after 40 seconds, which is apparently the quickest goal ever in a Europa League semi-final, after 40 seconds, you're thinking, wow, what, like, you know, that couldn't have gone any better, really. Like, maybe this is really going to be comfortable. And to be fair, that feeling probably stayed for about 80 minutes, but we'll get into that.
We were still
a great start.
We were still singing "Oh, when the Spurs won the trumpet" from the trumpet player, and we've already scored a goal, and we're thinking we're in dreamland here, you know. The atmosphere that the fans have shown up until that point, and we're already 1-0 up. You could see the players just started at 1,000,000 miles an hour, clearly feeding off that energy that the fans were giving him from the stands. And to go 1-0 up that early just sent the place into absolute overdrive, didn't it? There were just limbs flying everywhere around that stadium. There really were, and it just set. I mean, it didn't need another tone setter, but it just set the tone and like kind of gave another lift to the atmosphere, and it just went even more mental after we scored that. And look, I think after that, you know, we go 2-0 up, or was it after half an hour or something, with an unbelievable Pedro Porro ball for James Madison. But I still think, like, as much as we were heavily dominant, we had them penned in a little bit in that first half. I did expect a bit more, just go for their throats a bit more.
Yeah, it was a very controlled performance, I feel. Like, we had them where we wanted them in terms of they weren't offering anything. I thought off the ball was one of the better performances we've seen from Tottenham this season. I thought Bodo offered very little. I thought Bentancur, Bissouma were disrupting them really effectively in the middle, which we know Bodo, they like to kind of... away from home a bit less, but there are a team that like to flood players forward. They like to build up from the back. They like to play their football. So I think putting in Bissouma instead of maybe Udogie that's what Ange said anyway after the game. That was the kind of tactic to maybe just disrupt them as much as possible, knowing that we got that quality when we go forward. And I think that was working really well. Bodo, I think, barely had anything. But, you know, especially when we're at home and we know the team Bodo are, yeah, I think it would have been nicer to kind of maybe seen Tottenham throw a bit more caution to the wind and just kind of go gung-ho, hell for leather, and just really put our boot on their necks. But I think the way we went about it was probably the best, especially considering it's a Europa League semi-final. I think maybe if it's a group stage game or maybe an earlier round, that maybe would have been the case. But when it's semi-final, you've got to be a bit more careful with these things. You can't allow the game to get away from you and you lose control. And I think maybe that was the thinking going into this game, because it was a very controlled performance. It wasn't this kind of gung-ho, you know, crazy basketball game that maybe we've been used to a lot this season. It was very much maybe similar. What I'll compare it to is maybe that first half against Southampton. Like, we just very much had control of the game, and we did feel like we could score, but we weren't maybe just, you know, constantly going forward and constantly creating chances. But when we did go forward and we did get in the final third, we did look like we could score. I think Madison had that chance even before he scored, where Porro, again, I think, played the ball over the top and he missed that chance. Obviously, he scored, which, by the way, is becoming a bit of a... Porro to Madison is becoming a bit of... People are comparing it to Toby and Dele, that kind of relationship, because that's happened a few times now. They're getting Madison in behind. He's making those runs. And I think earlier in the season, he was making those runs a lot, and we weren't really taking advantage of it. But it seems as though we're really getting those timing of the passes right, because I think Madison's been making those runs all season, and he obviously made it pay in this one. And then
what a finish it was by
brilliant.
Madison, by the way. 2 players in front of him. He had to get it in between them, and it was pinpoint into the side netting.
Great touch as well to take it away from the defender.
That goal in general, that Porro ball, the Madison touch, the Madison finish was just sublime. It really was sublime. And I feel like Madison was having a really good first half, man. He was having a really good first half, really creative. He was dropping deep, knitting the play together. And I thought the kind of dynamic that we had in midfield with Bentancur sitting, Bissouma kind of patrolling, and then Madison working his magic, I thought it just a really good dynamic about it.
Yeah, I think I'm looking at the kind of what do you call it, the average positions, and it seems as though very much Bissouma and Bentancur much more of a double pivot yesterday rather than a lone kind of lone six, which allowed Madison, I think, a bit more freedom, which I definitely think helped. It helped him make those runs and get into the final third. He got him closer to Solanke. I think Richarlison as well. He linked quite well with Richarlison on that left-hand side at times. So I think Madison was definitely causing them lots of trouble, and his quality was making the difference. And you got that second goal. Obviously, Bentancur had that moment, I think, just before the break, where he fired it from on the volley on the edge of the box, which, if that goes in, I think the limbs would have been ridiculous if we make it 3-0 at that point. And I think obviously the half-time, I think they had a chance, actually, just before the break.
They did, good chance.
Which... I mean, it would have been a good goal if they would have scored it, but I have to say, Bentancur, we'll get into him a bit. He had a great game, but he kind of switched off in that moment and kind of switched off for the goal. But he allowed if you look at we've watched that chance again, he didn't see the Bodo player. He was like ready to clear it, and he just wasn't aware that a Bodo player was coming in.
Saw Vicario absolutely screaming at him, didn't you, at that moment?
Yeah, and actually, if you think about it, if the Bodo player doesn't shoot and he just takes a touch past him, he could have easily won a penalty because Bentancur wasn't aware of it. It would have been quite similar to the one Romero got in the second half, but that was kind of a warning sign. But that was literally, I think, the only shot they had in that first half, or one of the only efforts they had. They offered so little. But yeah, half-time, obviously, we're 2-0 up. Everyone's pretty happy with how it's going at the moment.
Happy. The stadium's in party mode.
Yeah.
Everyone's already looking on there. If you haven't booked a flight to Bilbao at that point, everyone's looking at their phones. Can I get a flight to Bilbao right now? Because we're definitely going to... Because it felt like at half-time, we were going to go and kick on in that second half and go 3, 4, 5 and really put the tie beyond all doubt. That's what it felt like. And by the way, that I don't know if you mentioned it just before, but that Bentancur effort. Oh my God, the way he kicked it up
save.
and volleyed it into the... I mean, that was an unbelievable save.
Yeah,
unbelievable save.
And that obviously would have capped off what was an unbelievable performance from him. But yeah, I think we were obviously chatting to a few Spurs fans at half time, and I think the message was, as much as we're happy, we definitely need at least one more goal, probably 2, with how the game's going. And I think there was a sense that we could really put this tie to bed in this leg, in that first half, the way it was going. Bodo were not doing much. We really had them under control. We really had them at arm's length. And as much as it wasn't a gung-ho performance, chance after chance, every time we did go forward, we looked like we could score. And so there was a sense of, if we get Tel on, we get Oderbell, and we really go for them in this half, then we could really pay dividends. And to be fair, I think that's what Andrew's thinking, because he did take off Richarlison, he brought on Tel, and he said it was a tactical decision to do that at half-time. He felt the game might open up a bit more in the second half. And I think the thinking was right, but it just didn't really pan out that way in the second half. Bodo seemed to just... I don't think they did much, but they definitely kept the ball a bit better, or either that or we allowed them to keep the ball better, because in that second half they dominated a lot more of the possession. It was much more of a counter-attacking display from Tottenham in that second half. Yeah,
it was, and it was a frustration for me, because I felt like we might have got a bit too complacent in that second half. We've seen that with Spurs before, where we have a good win, and next game, we show a bit of complacency going in against teams where we should really be beating. We've seen Spurs have that sign of complacency, and I felt like that might have crept in a little bit in the second half, where it really shouldn't have. And maybe it crept in not just on the players, but from the stands as well, because after that brilliant first half, we created 3 or 4 really big chances, scored 2, and you're thinking, no, this game's just easy. We're going to batter this team, and we're going to finish the tie off now. And I felt like that kind of feeling might have crept onto the pitch in the second half. We didn't have the same intensity as we did in the second half, as we showed in the first. The fans obviously weren't as loud in the second half as they were in the first as well. So it was just like, it just dragged out a little bit, and we get that penalty. Romero wins that penalty, and we go 3-0 up, and you're thinking, all right, fine, maybe we'll be all right here. But then after that, we really did take our foot off the gas, and we let them back in.
Well, I felt at 3-0, we got the penalty, which obviously watching the replay, which when it happened at the moment, everyone was kind of half-heartedly calling for it, but no one really, I think, believed it was going to be. Well, yeah, you said they might be checking for a penalty, but on replay, I think it's a soft one, because it's just one of those where, like, it's not like he's stopped a chance or something. He's just mistimed his kick. But when you kick someone, I mean, it's hard to say how hard he did it, because when you do it on slow mo, it doesn't look so hard. But maybe when you're looking at it on real time, it was maybe a bit harder than it is. But I don't think the Bodo player can really complain about it much. Although it's soft.
I'll tell you what, though, if Romero doesn't make such a big deal out of it, Romero went down like he'd broken his leg, literally. Yeah. He was, all the Argentinian shithousery was coming out in that moment for Cusi Romero. If he doesn't go down and stay down, I don't think they check it.
Yeah, it's one of those, isn't it, where I agree. I agree with that. If you kind of have to make it known that you've been fouled. And then obviously, so you went to check it, and I don't think the Bodo player can really have too many complaints, because he does catch him, and it's a silly error from him. But if I'm also a Bodo fan, you'd probably be saying it is a bit soft. It's not like it's just a bit of a nothing moment in the game, and we've won a penalty from it. Obviously, Solanke. First of all, Madison did that thing where he's protecting the penalty taker.
That happens with every penalty now. There's not a penalty taken where that doesn't happen now.
Which I think is a good tactic, because it just takes all the pressure off the penalty taker. That's the
thing is, though, if teams know that's going to happen, and you know probably who's going to take the penalty, maybe not in this instance, but Solanke was the one at Frankfurt to take the penalty, so you'd be surprised if he wasn't going to take the penalty again. Why wouldn't the players just go and try and put off the guy that they know is going to take the penalty?
Maybe I guess they should if they know who's going to take it. But I get obviously there are certain circumstances you definitely know, like Salah's definitely going to take it and things like that. But maybe an instance like yesterday, it's harder to do, because maybe they generally thought Madison was going to take it. But
I mean, it did look like he was genuinely going to take it.
Yeah, he held it for a long time, so I was like, okay, maybe it actually is going to be Madders. But I think Solanke, you got to say, coolest man in the stadium with that penalty. The way he just rolled it to the side. It's a penalty that I think we've seen Ivan Toney do. He just looks at the keeper and he kind of does a no-look penalty. And Solanke, last couple penalties he's been doing that. It's a risky one though, because if the keeper doesn't move, then you're risking being looked a bit like a mug, because they can just make a late move, and all of a sudden it's an easy save, rather than you just looking to take the best penalty. But when it comes off like that yesterday, it looks great.
I think that penalty yesterday and the penalty out in Frankfurt, such a deceptive eye from Solanke, because he really makes you think he's going to go to the way that he's looking. But he doesn't. He goes the other way, calmly slots it in both times. But I would kind of err on the side of caution of doing that same thing in his next Let's say he would get a penalty in the second leg, like goalkeepers will get a bit wise to it. You know what I mean?
Do you prefer that kind of penalty, or like a Harry Kane who just tries to get it in the corner and stuff like that?
I prefer a Harry Kane style penalty for sure, but any penalty that goes in, I don't care. But
you got Tony, who's got a great record. He takes a similar way, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's true. Look, I think whatever works for you at the end of the day. If it goes in the back of the net, then who else cares?
Yeah, true. I do kind of just prefer a guy to take a penalty, just take the best penalty he can, and just try and get in the corner and make it clinical, because I just feel like keepers are getting more wise to these things now. And I've seen who was it recently? Was it a Jorginho penalty, or I can't remember who it was recently. It was in the Premier League, and someone took a penalty like Solanke, and the keeper basically faked to move one way, and he basically moved the other way to fool him. And in the end, the penalty taker just p-rolled it into his arms, because he was wise to it. So you just got to be very careful. I agree, but look, as I've said, like Tony takes it. That's how he takes those penalties. He's got a great record with them. So. Look, Solanke's clearly, I think maybe I don't know if that's how he took them for Bournemouth, but clearly that's how he's taking them for us. And yeah, as you say, 3-0. I did think after 3-0 for about a 10-minute period, we did have them on the ropes. There was moments where we could have really put it to bed, and I think Udogie has that moment. He streams down the left, and he could have pulled it back, and he actually goes for goal.
That frustrated me so much, because I felt in that moment he had two players, I think, waiting for him in the box. And he goes for some shot or something, or drive across the box. I don't know what he's going for.
To catch the keeper out, I think.
At that moment. And I think it was so silly of Udogie, because you're 3-0 up, 4-0 is pretty much our ticket to Bilbao at that moment in time, right? Just cut it back. Just cut it back, and it's an easy finish for whoever's waiting in the box for him. Like, that frustrated me so much. I remember saying to Danny next to me, literally, Bilbao was in our hands in that moment in time. And I felt like, yeah, we did have them on the ropes and we had them penned in and we were looking threatening, but we didn't really create any clear-cut chances in that moment.
No, it was almost as like we were happy with the third, but we had like chances to make chances, if you know what I mean, and we just kind of, too often, we were just, you know, being calm, just like making sure we're protecting our lead, which is not like completely wrong thing to do, but I also think Madison going off disrupted us a bit. Then Solanke goes off, and all of a sudden we didn't really have a focal point because we've already taken off Richarlison. So that was the kind of downside to maybe starting Richarlison. Meant that when we had to take Solanke off, it meant Tell went up front, and we just lost that kind of physicality and focal point in the front line to make it stick as much. And that was maybe one of the cons to starting with both of them, which we did. And I also think Decky came coming on. He did some nice things. Like, I thought there was a couple of occasions he got the ball into feet and he shielded it well and he got forward. But when it came to, again, just doing stuff in the final third, just a bit lacking, just not really looking to produce those moments. It was kind of just playing it a bit too safe, I feel, a lot with Decky. And then we'll talk about it a bit as well, but he had that moment right at the end of the game where I think he should be laying someone off, really, and he went for goal and he put it wide. And I think Madison going off was a bit of a blow at that time because he was playing really well. But it was just a really frustrating one because obviously we had them on the ropes. We literally had the game in our palm of the hand. We could have made it 4 if we really went for it. And it's like we settled for a 3-0 at that point. And then out of nothing, they go and get that goal to make it 3-1.
Yeah,
and
it's just so frustrating, that goal, because everything up until that point was going so to plan. Like, everything that we wanted in the day, from the fans to the team to the goals. You know, we're 3-0 up going into the last, 15 minutes or so in the game. And you're thinking, look, all we need is one more to book that ticket to Bilbao. And then we go and concede. And it's just so classic Tottenham, isn't it? So classic Tottenham. You know you're going to concede at some point in the game. And the way the goal goes in as well, deflection off Van de Ven, and Bentancur gets turned into a pretzel. I mean, I don't know what defending Bentancur is doing in that moment in time. And look, up to that moment, he's having a really good game. But the reality is, the 2 chances that Bodo had in the game all come from Bentancur.
Yeah. Which on another day, maybe that deflection goes over the bar and obviously they miss the other chance and we don't even talk about it, but they scored from it. And you have to say the defending for the goal, look, I don't want to be too harsh on the defending overall because we defended pretty well, and that was literally the only couple moments they had. So I can't sit here and say they were awful defensively throughout the game, because they weren't. But in that moment, I think Johnson switches off. He allows a ball centrally where he should be kind of in the way, blocking that pass. And I was talking about before the game, they loved these little interchanges in and around that central space in that zone 14. That's exactly what they did for that moment. And there was a very similar goal, this goal, to what they scored against Lazio at home. Very similar. A little quick one-touch pass.
As well.
Same player, and he does a little movement in the box and he gets a shot off. And it's very frustrating because what's his name? The guy? I can't. Sandals or something. Saltness. That's it. Saltness. He is clearly a very kind of intricate player because he's clearly very good in tight spaces. But he's got Romero, Bissouma, and Bentancur all around him, and he's still able to move the ball to the right and get a shot off. It should never be happening. I think Bissouma, as much as Bentancur gets turned inside out, Bissouma just switches off. He should be covering round. He should be making sure if Bentancur gets turned, he's blocking it. Romero should be making sure that moment doesn't happen. And especially Bentancur, if Romero had it covered to the left-hand side, so if he went with his left foot, Romero had that covered. The one thing you cannot do is allow him to cut inside and shoot. You cannot let that happen by any stretch of the imagination. It's almost as if, because there were so many men around, like Bentancur just lost where the ball was, and by the time he realised it was to the left, that the shot was already being taken, and obviously the deflection doesn't help. It takes it away from Vicario, and it is the most frustrating thing, that goal. First of all, it kind of took the wind out of the ground, and all of a sudden it went from, as you say, couldn't have gone any better, really. It couldn't have been as dominant we couldn't have been more dominant, really, in terms of the scoreline, to all of a sudden we're going back to Bodo now with a 2-goal lead, where into a ground where they've won by more than by two or more goals multiple times this season, especially in the knockouts. And you could see as well the way they celebrated that goal, the way they went over to their fans after. I mean, I'm sure they would have done it anyway, whatever the scoreline, but you just could see the belief that gave them that this is a scoreline we can go back to and compete with, and a belief that this is not insurmountable.
Yeah, absolutely, and they'll back themselves at home where they're very, very strong. You know, in the Arctic Circle, 4G pitch and everything like that. A lot of teams go to Bodo and crumble. That's the reality. They've had some big performances there, particularly in the quarterfinal against Lazio. So we're going to have our wits about us massively in that second leg. It's not a foregone conclusion by any stretch of the imagination at all. And, you know, listening to the Bodo players after the game, they're full of confidence that they can beat us and they can go through to that final in the second leg. Whether that's fighting talk or real genuine belief, I believe it is genuine belief because of how strong they are at home. But the reality is, if I said to you before the start of the season, we'll be here in this moment, we're going to take a 2-goal lead into the second leg of a semi-final in the Europa League, anyone would have taken that.
Of course. And even before the game, it's not like, I don't know if I would have taken it, but I wouldn't have said I'm unhappy with a 3-1 win. It's just the context of the game, being 3-0 up, not having a single shot pretty much the whole game, them being completely at arm's length. They didn't even look like scoring at all. And in a moment, just one moment in the game, we've let them back in the game. We've basically give them that little creak in through the door, that creak of light, that we've given them hope, which they shouldn't have any. So when you can basically see Bilbao and you can basically almost touch it, and it's basically all of a sudden that feeling snatched away, and now it's a bit in the balance again. That is the most frustrating thing. And yes, I think in any other game, in most other opponents or most other contexts, 3-1 win at home, you're going to be happy with that. And I am fairly content with it. I'm not sitting here saying I'm unhappy, but I think this is one of the very few scenarios where I think a 3-1 win is justifiably a bit frustrating. I think.
And that showed with the fans after the game, you know. It was just a bit flat after the game. And when you're winning 3-1 with the atmosphere that's been on show already, and you win the game 3-1, against any team, apart from maybe what we're going through right now, everyone would be in a jubilant mood.
But it's funny as well, but if we were like 2-1 up and we scored to make it 3-1 with 10 minutes to go,
it would be different.
It probably would have been different. It probably would have been jubilant,
It's
because we let it slip.
It's because we know with how dominant we were, with the balance of play, that game should have finished 4-5-0. Yeah. That's what it should have finished.
And we had it. We literally had that game in the palm of our hands. And, you know, I think coupled with so much disappointment we've had this season, to see us not take full advantage of that situation. Because I think we all know that this Tottenham team, we can't take anything for granted with it. So I think knowing that, and knowing that Bodo have a really great home record and have a plastic pitch which we struggled in Tamworth and all these different things, everyone was really needed that feeling of we just needed this game won in the first leg. And the fact that we literally had it, we could touch it, and now it's kind of that one moment has put doubt in us is disappointing.
And, you know, with the whole narrative coming into it with Bodo under strength, not with their best players coming into this game, with the dominance that we had, it is very frustrating that we haven't put this game beyond all doubt, because we had it well within us to do it yesterday. 3-1 is still a healthy lead to take to Norway in the second leg, but we've got our own problems going into the second leg now. BILBAO out for the rest of the season, Madison with a question mark against his name, Solanke with a question mark against his name, Sonny with a question mark against his name. So we got big players that could potentially be out. We don't know if Madison and Solanke are out yet. But we know that they're probably going to be out for the game this weekend against West Ham. So it'll be touch and go whether they can make Thursday. If we are going there without Solanke, without Madison who was pivotal to us yesterday, with a Kulusevski who's not really firing on all cylinders, you know, I am worried going into that second leg.
And also, what do you think of... obviously, after the game, Ange did his interviews, and a lot of the players did their interviews with the media, and they were all obviously happy, very happy with the win, and they didn't really seem that disappointed that we conceded late on, from what I could gather. Obviously, they said, "Oh, it's disappointing, but you know, it was a great, you know, we won." And like even after the game, Decky was doing his interview, and one of the interviewers said, "Oh, you know, Tottenham don't like to make it easy for themselves." He goes, "What do you mean make it? Oh, sorry, they don't. They always do it the hard way." And he goes, "What do you mean the hard way? We just won 3-1." And like, do you think? Maybe do you think they don't get it that goal, how big it could be, or do you think it's right to, you know, how dominant we were in that game, like take confidence from that element into the second leg, that regardless of conceding that goal, we should be going there and winning anyway?
I think there's one thing of what you say to the press and one thing what you're saying behind closed doors and the way you're acting behind closed doors. I think Ange will be laying into them for conceding that goal behind the closed doors, and I think the players will be very disappointed with doing so. And I think in the press, they're coming out there and saying, oh, it's no problem, we won 3-1, it's a good victory for us. I think that's the kind of narrative going on.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right. It just seemed to me like as if they're brushing off that goal.
Because I was looking at Ange in the press conference, and he didn't like... What he was saying seemed like he was happy, but his mannerisms and the way he actually looked didn't look like he was happy.
That's Ange, isn't it, though?
Yeah, but you look at him after when we beat Man United in the Cup, you know what I mean?
And
he
Frankfurt,
was absolutely jubilant, you know what I mean?
But yeah, I guess, yeah. So maybe there is something more to it. I hope they are drilling into the players that goal, first of all, should never have been happening, and as well that now because of that goal, it's going to be so much harder in Bodo, giving them that belief, because at 3-0, when we hadn't given them a chance. As well, I think psychologically that makes such a big difference going to the second leg, because they go into that game knowing the first leg they didn't even have like a single shot, and like they found it so hard to score, so now they're going to have to score 3. But getting that goal later on, giving them that belief, and knowing that, you know, if they get an early goal when the crowd's up and that they got that home form behind them, it just makes it a completely different task, I think, next week. So it's going to be very interesting to see how we approach the game next week. Do you think maybe if you look at how we did in the second half in yesterday, we gave them 70% possession. Do you think maybe that's kind of a dress rehearsal with how we will approach the game on next week in Bodo?
I think that's exactly how we're going to address the game. I think it's going to be more like a Frankfurt second leg, like a Man City kind of style, sitting in a little bit more, looking to hit them on the counter-attack. So I fully expect maybe like a Tell or an Odegaard on the wings to really exploit that space with, because they're going to give us space around the back, Bodo. They're going to come into this knowing they need to score 2 goals minimum to take it to extra time. So they're going to come out and try and really attack us, and I think we're going to sit in, try be compact, and hit them on the counter attack. And I think that's the best way to do it.
But it's so dangerous now, because even if, like, say we get the first goal, I still feel like, you know, it's not quite over yet, because I was just saying, I'm like, look at that Villa game when they played PSG. PSG's got their 2-0 lead after a 3-1 lead at home, and even then it wasn't over. Villa just quickly hit them 3 goals, and Bodo just have that in them to do that. I was watching their Lazio game, and it was actually 0-0 up until the second half, and then bam, 2 quick goals, and then just chance after chance, and it just flipped on a dime. So you have to be very careful in these kind of games, that even if you feel like you're doing okay and you're in control, in the flash it can change, and all of a sudden it will start to go against you. So we just got to be so careful next week.
I know, and the stadium's going to be absolutely rocking. I know it's a small stadium, but every single fan in that stadium is going to be bang up for it. That goal at the end has given the club and the fan base a massive lift that they can do something in the second leg, and that is not what we want going into this game. However, we are 3-1 up. We have put ourselves in a good position. We just didn't put it beyond all doubt, which is the most frustrating thing. But I think what we need to do in the second leg is score 2 goals. If we score 2 goals, we go through, in my opinion. And I think even if we go lose the game 3-2, but scoring 2 goals in Bodo, I can't see them getting 4 or 5. You know what I mean?
And I think next week we have to go again with Bentancur and Bissouma, I think.
Yeah,
because
100%.
That's where Bodo... I think it was actually pretty genius from Ange to play them both, seeing how Bodo attack teams and how they play. Like, they're so focused on those little interchanges in the middle. So having Bentancur and Bissouma just continuously breaking all that up was so important, I feel, and we're just going to need them to do the same.
It's a mad situation, isn't it? Because Bentancur's been out in the cold for so long. We've all been saying Ange has lost faith in him. Ange is this with Bissouma. Bissouma's done at this football club. And suddenly, out of completely nowhere, he comes in the semi-final of a European competition and puts in a performance like that, just completely out of nowhere.
Although I would say Berger was kind of missed yesterday.
Yeah,
I do think we could have done with a bit of his spark at times, because I feel like there was just too many times we were just a bit too passive. We just lacked that kind of... in the middle, like we were passing it away, like passing it around kind of very safely, and yes, we had those moments like Porro over the top and stuff, but we could have done with someone just in the middle driving forward, opening up the game a bit more, and maybe taking it to Bodo a bit. And maybe if he was in there instead of Bissouma, that might happen. But I think Bissouma being there obviously meant that Bodo had very little, and they could basically lay a glove on us, and that was really important. But maybe if Bergvall was there, do we maybe have a few more moments where we create chances potentially?
Particularly where Madison goes off as well.
And yeah, exactly. So
look, it's really bad, man. Bergvall being out for the rest of the season, because he's the one that has stepped up over the last couple of months every single week. It's going to be a massive loss for him in the second leg, and potentially a final if we get there as well. But back on Bissouma quickly, like, we're all in the pub like before the lineups come out, and we're all discussing who's going to come in for Bergvall. Not one person said Bissouma. Everyone's saying it's going to be Sarr or Kulusevski. That was the conversation, and suddenly Bissouma's in the starting lineup. But that's
credit
just the way.
You got to credit Ange for the how he changed it, and I think the plan did work. I think the plan was actually to make it less of a chaotic game. I think that's what he wanted, make it a bit more controlled, and I think that led to Bodo having very little, and it led to, I think, the result that we got.
Who was your man of the match yesterday?
Potentially led to them scoring late on. Man of the match, either Porro. Yeah, I guess between Porro, Bentancur, Bissouma. I think Bentancur was brilliant, but it's hard to overlook those two moments where he did. Obviously, the first, it did nearly cost us, but I think overall, he might have been just that much better than everyone, regardless of that, where he probably takes it. But I think Porro, might be a close second. I think he was fantastic at right back. I said before the game, I think he's going to be so crucial in this game, and I think it turned out that way. His delivery was really, really kind of, the quality of it was so crucial. So I think those two were the standouts. I think maybe Bissouma very close.
Madison
third.
as well.
Madison as well.
I think Madison was absolutely brilliant yesterday. I really did. Before his injury, he was close to being our best player. He really was that crucial to us. So unbelievable in those pockets of space. The goal that he scored as well. I thought Madison was brilliant, but I think I would probably side with Pedro Porro as well, because Pedro as well, he barely crossed the halfway line at times yesterday.
Played a lot deeper.
He played a lot deeper yesterday, and just those balls from deep, like, he's got that down on lock. And it was catching out Bodo a lot yesterday, and it's just a shame we couldn't make even more out of the good work that he was doing. But look, 3-1 up, going into the second leg. It's going to be difficult, but it's always going to be difficult in a semi-final. You can't have it. You can't just expect to have it all your way.
I think, like, as much as I'm disappointed when we had the game in our hands, like, it would be reminiscent of probably a spoiled child to be crying that it's 3-1 instead of 3-0 in a semi-final. Like, we've got a good result. We go there with a 2-goal lead. We go there with confidence, and we did dominate that game. And as much as it a bit disappointed it should be over, I can't be unhappy that we've got that lead in the semi-final, and we do have an unbelievable opportunity to make it to a final. It's just Tottenham have been I've got PTSD from Zagreb and all these other places where we've had leads and blown them, and that'll be the ultimate Spursy thing, wouldn't it, to do that? So that's obviously, when you're a Tottenham fan, that's always going to be in your mind that we're Tottenham.
just please Tottenham, if you've got anything about you, go and play in that green kit out in Bodo. They have to wear that green kit. Semi-final vibes. We did it away in Frankfurt in the green kit as well.
Just don't wear the blue kit. We always know
anything but the blue kit. I'll take white over blue, but green. Green is the way to go for a European. It's like the new thing now. Spurs got to wear green in Europe.
100%. And just a quick point on Man United, which obviously they got a 3-0 win yesterday.
Unbelievable. Away
in Bilbao, which I wouldn't have expected that. Although I was watching the highlights, it did seem as though they were probably lucky to survive the first 20 minutes. But they did, and then all of a sudden they got a goal, probably against one of player. But
I didn't see the sending off. What was the sending off like?
Sending off, I'd say it's a bit soft, but again, I don't know how many complaints. It was a ball across the face to goal, and Højlund looks like he's about to tap it home, but he just gets a little pull by the Athletic player, and
last man.
Because he might have reached it, it counts as a goal scoring opportunity. Although if he doesn't pull him, I don't think he was guaranteed to put it away. But I think he does just miss it with the pull. So they get a penalty and a sending off, and all of a sudden it's 2-0 and the game's done. But although I have to say, to be fair, with 10, even though they were playing against 10 men, they really did take it to the sword. Like 3-0 flattered Bilbao in the end with how it went. But when it was 11v11 and before United scored that opening goal, it did seem as though it was a matter of time for Bilbao scored rather than United. But credit to United, they've been really pulling it out of the bag in the Europa League, and it seems as though they did it again yesterday. So, the prospect of potentially facing them in the final all of a sudden is becoming a bit more daunting, I think, with every game.
Yeah. No, it is. But look, we'll talk about the final once we make it there. We've still got a job to do in the second leg. Credit to Man United for the performance and result that they had out in Bilbao last night.
Maguire turned into Yamal. Unbelievable.
But look, let's go and do the job in Bodo next week. It ain't going to be easy, but it's well within our kind of grasp now to get to that final. Definitely got one foot in that final in Bilbao. Now it's about going there, professional performance, hopefully an early goal just to settle down the nerves. If Spurs can go there and get an early goal just to settle down those nerves, I think that will, probably see us there. But I think if we go there and concede an early goal, then God help us. But that is our match review. We're going to move on. I got a couple of super chats to get through just before we move on. First of all, from Mr. Brian Daigle, member for 54 months.
Jeez,
Daigle.
54 and counting for Mr. Daigle.
He says both Bissouma and Porro were great yesterday. Really enjoyed that one. I really enjoyed that one too, Daigle. And Rovshan,
nice to see Brian smile and being happy.
Always. Rovshan says, hello guys, wish you a good stream. What do you think about the return of Paratici? Well, we'll get into that a bit later. We do have a segment to talk about that, so we'll get into it soon. But let's get on to the player ratings. 3-1 against Bodo. First up is Big Vic. 6s all round. I mean, the only shot on target they had was the goal that they scored. I think, he got very unlucky with the deflection.
Yeah.
But apart from that, he pretty much had nothing to do.
What I would say is I actually thought his passing was a bit better yesterday. He did some really nice clips out to Udogie and Udogie, and albeit maybe it's because he was under less pressure and he was given that time and space to play the passes. So literally had very little to do. Even the corners, I think, I was looking at the stats, they had one corner, I think, the whole game. So it's hard to rate him too highly or too low because he's just pretty much a spectator for most of it.
Yeah. Pedro Porro up next to him, gives him an 8. I gave him a 9. I thought Pedro was brilliant yesterday. Major impact of us winning that game. First goal comes from his cross. The second goal comes from his unbelievable ball over the top to James Madison. Tried it a couple of times through the game as well. I just thought he was just unbelievable yesterday in terms of his ball playing ability and just causing a threat to the Bodo backline, and as well from a defensive standpoint, very controlled performance out on that right hand side. Didn't go too far up the pitch where he knows he can get caught out sometimes. So I mean, I thought that was probably clear instruction from Ange not to leave too much space in behind him, and he didn't do that.
Yeah, and I think it's also, we know that Porro has that quality to affect the game from deep. He doesn't have to get too far forward to show off his quality delivery, and I think we saw that with the assist for the second goal, playing it over the top, which it seems as though he's getting more and more joy out of that kind of position. Obviously, it was his delivery for the first goal, which led to Richarlison heading it across the face as well. I think his corners as well were causing a bit of trouble, and when he was the one on the delivery, I think it was there. So I think Porro's in brilliant form. He's having a really good late season form, Pedro Porro, and I think this was another really strong showing.
Yeah. Kuti Romero up next, 8s all round for Kuti. What Kuti was doing best yesterday is his ball playing ability was on full show yesterday. I loved it. It was like back to Kuti at his best in that kind of aspect. The goal that we conceded, I think he needs to be doing a bit better from, just sniffing out that danger, which was a bit of frustration. Picks up a silly booking as well. But I thought for the most part, he was playing really well and obviously won the penalty with some brilliant Argentinian shithousery.
Yeah, 100%. And I think he was just very, this is Kuti at his best, getting involved in challenges, disrupting Bodo, being much more kind of the leader in that back line and not making mistakes. And I think he did a great job with that. And I think it was a really, really strong showing. And I think Bodo really struggled when the ball went anywhere near Kuti because he was just gobbling it up and making sure Tottenham were back on the front foot. And anytime Bodo looked like they were going to come into our final third a lot of the time. But obviously, if it wasn't Bentancur or Bissouma blocking it, it was Kuti there to stop him. So really, really strong showing. But yeah, didn't cover himself much glory with the goal, I would say.
Mickey van der Ven, Sim gives him a 7. I gave him an 8. Again, I thought he was defending at a really good level yesterday. There was one really important challenge that he did at the back. There was a couple of times he was getting the ball, trying to drive forward, maybe more in the second half. I expected a bit more from that from Van de Ven, to be honest. It only happened a couple of times during the game, but I felt like nothing really troubled him throughout the game, and he went about his business pretty well. Obviously, the goal that we did concede does come off him.
Was it him or Bentancur? I thought it was Bentancur.
No, it came off Van de Ven.
Okay, it came off Van de Ven. Yeah, I think he was kind of our safety net, which we didn't really need in this game. He was kind of patrolling everything. It was in or Bentancur?
I thought it was Van de Ven.
That's what I thought. I thought it was Bentancur.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Comments are saying Bentancur. Anyway.
Fair enough. Shows I don't know what I'm talking about.
But I think, yeah, I kind of felt like, you know, he was kind of ready to step in, but he just wasn't that much needed. We had Bentancur and Bissouma patrolling, and then we had Romero being a bulldog in that middle, and he was kind of there if needed, but we never really needed him that much. Not to say he had a bad game or anything, but it was just a quieter game because he wasn't that involved. I think his passing out the back was pretty decent. Other than that was
I thought everything he did pretty well.
Yeah.
Next up is Destiny Udogie. 8 all round for Udogie, and they couldn't really handle him on that side, the Bodo backline, to be honest. I felt like a number of times he was getting the wrong side of the defender with his brute force and providing a really good attacking outlet out on that left-hand side for us. I would have expected a bit more quality in the final third from him. There was that one moment that really frustrated me where he gets in behind and he takes a stupid shot or a stupid drive across the face. I'm not sure what he was doing when he could just have an easy cutback to a Spurs player, and it's probably going to be 4-0 or 3-0. Was it 4 or 3? It would have been 4-0 at that moment.
Yeah, it would have been 4.
And you're basically tasting Bilbao at that point. So really frustrating, but all in all, I think it just carries on his good form because I thought he was really good.
Yeah, and I think in the Europa League, the last few games, these have really been Bentancur back to his best.
Yeah.
This is really the Bentancur that, you know, that we want to give a new contract to, and the Bentancur that we know. Udogie. I think he's been really, really fantastic in the last few games. I think down that left-hand side, I think they really struggled to deal with him, actually. And when it's kind of like when he decided he was going to go down the left and into the space, they kind of just had to let him go because they couldn't stop him. He was too strong. But unfortunately, yeah, some of the decision-making down that left-hand side left a bit to be decided and could have done a bit more with it. But I thought his link up with Tel and Richarlison was really strong, and and we're loving Udogie at the moment. I think he's doing really, really well. So I think rightfully in that team for the moment, I think he's got that space at left back, and he's showing everyone why everyone was so excited about him for so long. Because I think people, got on his back for a lot of time because of performances dipping. But these kind of performances remind us this is potentially one of the best left backs in the league when he's in this kind of mood.
I mean, their right back just couldn't handle the physicality of him, could they? I mean, time and time again, when it came into a duel between them two, Udogie was winning every single time. Bentancur up next, 8 all round for Rodrigo. Really top performance, as we've seen in the Europa League, definitely in the quarterfinals as well. He's carried on that. He's just got this kind of presence about him in the middle of the park at the moment in these Europa League games, and this one was no different. He was like a bull in a china shop at times, with his aggressive mentality in the middle of the park. Every single duel, it seemed like he was winning. He was driving the team forward as well, just sitting there in the middle of the park and just gobbling everything up. And where you're going to mark him down a bit, where he doesn't get a 9, is because of the defending that he showed in those two moments. The first one at the end of the first half, and more particularly the one in the second half where he just gets turned into a bit of a pretzel for the goal that they scored, and he needs to be defending a bit better in that moment in time.
Yeah, agreed. And he'll be disappointed with that because we had that situation under control, and all he has to do is just basically not let him inside, and he did, and that was the most disappointing thing. But apart from that, I think it was a phenomenal performance. These are performances that kind of him, like it was a few years ago before his injury. This is what we want to see from Bentancur on a more consistent basis, and if he performs like this consistently, then I think no one's going to have a problem with giving him a new contract. I think this is what we want to see from him. So I think he was fantastic. I think off the ball, I think his reading of the game was phenomenal. He was, every time he went in for a challenge, I think we've seen previously, sometimes he misses his challenges and gets overrun. Maybe it's because Bissouma was a bit close to him and he was in a double pivot rather than a lone 6. But I thought he was just getting there every time and making sure that they're stopping Bodo in their tracks. I think on the ball as well, so much more confident, driving forward, playing the ball forward quickly, had that unbelievable effort at the end of the first half as well, that volley, which could have been a crackerjack of a goal if it went in. Unfortunately, it was a brilliant save from the keeper. But this is Bentancur back to his best, and he's saving it for the Europa League at the moment, it seems. But hopefully we get to see it more and more often, and at least 2 more times this season, let's say.
Yves Bissouma up next. Sim gives him a 7. I gave him an 8. And Bissouma's best performance of the season in a long stretch, to be honest. I thought he was absolutely brilliant, working in tandem with Bentancur, showing that aggressive nature in the middle of the park. And it was their kind of relationship on the pitch on the day that really won us that midfield battle. And like I said before, I really felt like Madison, Bentancur and Bissouma were just working so well together to dominate that midfield. And you know what? He does such great work to that first goal as well. The strengths that he showed to bounce off that Bodo player, to get it to Pedro Porro, I think he makes that goal as well, and which is no one's really talking about. It, really underrated.
Just bullied him.
Yeah, really underrated. So Bissouma, credit to him, because nobody gave him a chance in hell to start this game. He started and performs really well as well.
Yeah, 100%. And credit, massive credit to him, stepping up when we needed him most in a big game on a big occasion. And finally, one of our senior players, acting like a senior player, and that's exactly what he did. And I was really happy for him because he's taken a lot of criticism, but I think in this game he was great. Apart from maybe a few wayward shots, which I think we can overlook. One of them, I think, hitting the second tier. But apart from that, I think really strong showing. And I think him and Bentancur, I think for some reason, when they've been together, that we just haven't seen a good partnership from them. I don't know why it hasn't worked, but maybe it's because one of them is usually in an 8 rather than a double pivot or whatever it is. But they were in a double pivot yesterday, and I think it worked an absolute treat. Bodo didn't have an answer to it, and I think both of them just dominated really well. But not just on the ball, off the ball, but on the ball as well. A lot better than they've been previously. So really happy for Biss. A good show, good performance.
James Madison, Sim gives him a 7. I gave him a 9. Surely he's got to get more than a 7 for that goal he scored. Like, that goal was sublime. What an unbelievable run. What an unbelievable touch. And what an unbelievable finish as well. First and foremost, I thought that was absolutely brilliant, and obviously sends us 2-0 up before half time. Apart from that, though, I thought, he was dropping deep into the midfield. He was looking like our only real creative outlet in the middle of the park. He was creating chances. I think it's 2 or 3 key passes on the day, and I thought he was the one that was really making us tick in that first half.
Yeah, and I unfortunately did go off on the hour, but I think it was another really strong showing. I think Madison, unfortunately, he's picked up this injury. Let's hope it's not serious, but I think he's another player in pretty good form at the moment. I think he's been playing quite consistently well for the last few weeks, getting regular goal contributions and actually stepping up for the team. And he gets a lot of criticism as well for one of the players who goes hiding, but I think recently he hasn't, especially in these Europa League games. He's been fantastic, I think. And this was no different. A brilliant goal, brilliantly timed run, which he's been doing all season. And I think he's been timing that run to perfection. Brilliant, as you say. It's a brilliantly timed goal it's like a world-class moment from a player we know has that in him. So that was fantastic from James Madison. Did it as well just before that he scored, but unfortunately on that occasion he kind of put it over the bar. Could have done better with that one. And I think I agree. I think he was dropping deeper on occasion to kind of set the tempo. But when he was in the final third, I think he definitely looked one of our most creative kind of outlet, and the one that could provide that magic.
Brennan Johnson up next. Sim gives him a 7. I gave him a 7. I think you've done Madders dirty here to give him the same rating as Johnson, to be honest. I think Johnson does very well to get that header at the back post to put it in the back of the net. But apart from that, I don't think he had too much of an impact, to be honest. So I think Brennan Johnson, credit to him, 17th goal of the season, puts us 1-0 up in 40 seconds. But I mean, apart from that, I expected a lot more from him going to attack that fullback. And I don't think he made one dribble throughout the whole course of the game.
I think what I gave him a bit of credit for, I thought his pressing was pretty good. I thought he won the ball high up in a few situations. Obviously, was in the right place for the goal. Really good header. And I actually thought he was impacting the game kind of off the ball quite well. And I did want him to come off, to be honest. I thought Udogie on the right could have really gone at them. But unfortunately, the way it all happened, he had to stay on and play on the right-hand side. But I thought he got a good goal, and I thought it was I think he was a bit more involved in this game potentially than others. But yeah, I agree. Could have probably done a bit more with his dribbling. But I think a lot of the time when he got the ball, he was winning free kicks and he was pressing and winning the ball high up and setting up moments. So I thought that was all right.
Richarlison up next, out on the left wing. 7s all round for Richie. And yeah, look, brilliant assist, great header, puts it into a dangerous area where Brennan Johnson obviously finishes it with a nice header himself. And look, I thought he was causing problems. He was being aggressive up top. 2 key passes on the day. I still think, like, if you start with Udogie and Tell from the off, I know it didn't get better in the second half when they came on, but I do think, like, if you start with them from the start and they attack the space and they're feeding off that initial energy from the fans, I think it could have been better for us. I think Richarlison did all right. It wasn't, great by any stretch of the imagination, but he did a job.
Yeah, I think he was pretty good. Obviously, I think you could argue his inclusion was justified with the assist in the first minute, and I think that was the plan, really. Get the ball to him, get the delivery to Porro, to the back post, get it on Richarlison's head, and either him can score or he can set one up, and that's exactly what happened. So I think that was the plan, and it worked to perfection immediately. I actually think his hold-up play and his ability to link the play was a lot better than I give it credit for in this game. Although I was a bit frustrated with some moments where he could have really gone at his fullback. He could have really gone for goal and created an opportunity or had a shot. And there was one moment where the shot was weak, went straight at the keeper. Another one where I think his cross was blocked for the first man, where there were chances to hit men in the box. So definitely had a couple of frustrating moments. But I think overall, it was a pretty solid showing from Richarlison on that left-hand side. And I think the plan, why he was in there, I think happened in minute 1. So fair play.
Dom Solanke, Sim gives him a 7. I gave him an 8. Really aggressive showing from Dom Solanke. And I thought, not like maybe previously in the last month or so, or since he's been back from his injury, I thought his hold-up play was a lot better in this game than it has been previously. Scores the penalty, really calm as you like, sends the keeper the wrong way, and he just slots it in to the middle, like left of the goal. And yeah, look, really aggressive display from the front. Maybe could have done more in terms of getting in goal-scoring opportunities and goal-scoring positions. But I still think like he had a major impact on that team yesterday.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I was saying, he can. The Bodo defenders do struggle a bit physically, and I think we definitely saw that a bit yesterday. And I think Solanke, there were some occasions where he was second favourite to win a ball and he would just body the defender out of the way and win it and drive us up the pitch. The only disappointment, I guess, was he wasn't getting on the end of too many things in the box, and he wasn't kind of looking like he was going to score in open play, which he had a couple of moments. There was one moment Bissouma wins the ball really high up the pitch. It falls to Solanke. He's bearing down on goal, and it just never looked like scoring. His shot gets blocked and it goes for a corner where, if he's just had a bit more quality about him, he creates an opportunity from it. And I think in a few moments like that where maybe taking too long to have the shot, or maybe a bit too selfish and things like that, which a bit frustrating. Didn't maybe use the most of his physicality in the box. I guess you could argue the players didn't aim for him enough in the box as well. But it's what he does. He occupies defenders to draw attention, and so other players get the benefit. And I think that definitely happened yesterday. And credit to him for the penalty. Coolest man in the stadium, just slots it nonchalantly past the keeper, just waited for him to move, and he just took it so confidently and unbelievable composure. So yeah, he gets a lot of credit for that. It's a fair play.
In terms of the substitutes, Baptiste Tell came on at half-time, 6s all round for Tell, and I was really excited when we made the change because I thought Tell, should have come on and warranted to come on, definitely with his skill set in terms of being able to be direct and have a go at your fullback. But we just never really saw it in that second half. Bodo dominated the possession, what you say, 71% possession or something that second half. And you just never really saw Tell in those opportunities to really go direct and bully that fullback. And yeah, it was just a bit of an anonymous performance.
I felt like he was stuck too deep because I think because the whole team were deep, every time he picked up the ball, it was like either on the halfway line or like in his own half. And I think there were some moments he did quite well. I remember he gets the ball under pressure and he does a ball roll and a pass into Decky in centrally and gets us on like a transition. But I just felt like he was never, as you say, he was never really picking up in the position to really drive at the Bodo defence kind of in their half, because a lot of the time he was just picking the ball up way too deep, and that was a shame. Unfortunately, I don't think individually it was his best game, but I think off the ball he was definitely helping the team and made sure nothing was coming down that side, to be fair.
Decky up next, 6 all round from Decky, and we're just ever since he's come back from injury, we just haven't seen him at close to his best, and I think this was no different, to be honest. And look, he came on, he put himself about a bit, but there's just little quality about anything that he's doing at the moment, and it was about hit and miss in terms of his physicality. Sometimes he was getting brushed off the ball, sometimes he was winning that physical battle, but you expect more from Decky.
Yeah, and I think there were some good moments when it come to him shielding the ball from Bodo players, getting us basically to go forward and on the front foot, and maybe he kept the ball in a moment where some other players might have lost it with his physicality. But when he got into the final third, unfortunately, didn't have the quality that Madison's been showing in recent weeks, and especially at a moment right at the end of the game where he kind of either should have laid it off for someone or should be getting that shot on target, puts it wide and misses that opportunity to take a 4-1 lead into the second leg, which was a massive shame. I don't think it was a stinker by any stretch, but we know he's capable of so much better, I think, Decky.
And Wilson Odebear, 6 all round for Wilson. Again, like you expected him to have a lot more impact when he had, team forward line, not really attacking those spaces out on the wide areas. We earmarked like that space a really key area for Spurs to go and do the business and maybe take the advantage, and he just wasn't able to do that.
Yeah, obviously came on the left-hand side. I really wanted to see him on the right just because I want him seeing just purely use his pace to attack that Bodo player, get to that byline and cut it up back on his strong foot. I think cutting inside and doing all that kind of stuff at that moment was probably working against us, but it didn't happen, unfortunately. He played on the left. And I felt too often he would get the ball and kind of either look for the pass to Udogie on the outside or maybe look inside. And there was one moment he even passed it and gave it away really sloppily where he should have found, I think it was Decky in the middle, but he ends up giving it away. Never really had the confidence to just drive at his fullback and create space and take people on. It seemed as though he was playing it safe a bit too much. And maybe that was instruction with the game kind of, you didn't want to give the ball away too much, but I felt like there should have been more caution to the wind with those wingers.
And finally, Ange Postecoglou, 8 all round. Look, it's in terms of the starting lineup, I think in hindsight, when you're looking at it, I think good decision to play Bissouma alongside Bentancur. I think it was a bit of a mistake not to start with Tel and Odebear, to be honest, because I know they came on in the second half, didn't really do much, but like I said before, I felt like they would have really fed off that energy from the start where we started off in a million miles an hour, and I felt if we had those kind of dribbly wingers on the wing in the first half when we were really on top, when the fans were in full voice, I felt like we could have probably ended that game in the first half, really taking the game to them. So I felt like that wasn't the greatest decision. However, he starts with Brennan and he starts with Richarlison. One ends up with a goal, one ends up with assists. So how much can you really complain with the starting lineup? So I would say that the changes that he did make throughout the game didn't really have too much of an impact on the game. But one of them he was forced into with the Madison injury. I think Solanke as well. Did he go off? Solanke went off with an injury as well. So I think some of the changes were forced upon him. But the good things is that we're taking a 3-1 lead over into the second leg into Bodo, which is credit to him and the team. And the way that he gets it, it'll be hard not to get a team up for a European semi-final, but he set the team up in a really good way, playing Bissouma and Bentancur sitting, and I think the team really benefited it from him. So I thought he managed the game all in all pretty well, but just a few things that maybe could have been done different.
Yeah, I agree. I think the lineup was actually really good from him, in my opinion. I think you could say, well, on the pitch, he had a plan. Clearly, he had a tactical plan going into this game, and I think it really paid off, especially early on, getting that goal, getting that assist. And I think fair play to him, because no one would have said that those changes would have made a positive impact, and they did. And I think that was kind of threw everyone off, but I think it was a kind of a plan that worked, in my opinion. And I think fair play to him. I think the changes were really positive, especially the Bissouma one. Where it's not maybe so good, I thought second half, at 3-0, could he have made... I think, look, I was actually watching him on the touchline. There were moments he was like, come on, press higher, be more aggressive, and he was getting really frustrated.
Well, that was particularly in the latter stages of the game where they were just passing it around their defence, happy and content.
He was like, go after them, and we weren't doing it. So I don't know if we sat back purposefully, but I do think in general it was much more of a controlled performance. That was on purpose. I think the fact that we kind of were making sure we just had Bodo at arm's length, but also whenever we did go forward, we looked threatening, we looked like we could score whenever we went forward. I think that kind of making sure that we had control over that game was quite purposeful for a lot of it. Although I would say the last 10-15 minutes, we did just see a bit of control. We did obviously concede that goal really sloppily, and I also agree that the subs, not totally his fault that they were forced upon him, but the impact they had should have been a lot more, especially the game state that it was. We should have been doing a lot more, I felt like, with the players we had on the bench. So that was kind of disappointing. They should have been making a lot more of an impact. And also the fact that the con of having Richarlison and Solanke start, especially when Richarlison goes off half-time and Solanke gets injured, is that for the last 15 minutes we didn't have that focal point, and that did kind of go against us a bit. Whereas if one of them doesn't start, you have one of them to bring on later on, and you can have that for 90 minutes. So that was maybe a con of starting both of them, albeit having both maybe was a pro in that first half. I think overall, 3-1 going to that second leg is positive, and the fact as well, even in that game, we should have had the game dead and buried, and the game should be on beyond all doubt. Unfortunately, we did concede that goal, which I don't think is due to a tactical thing. It's just one of those things where the players have to take a bit of responsibility for that goal, I feel. But I think overall pretty well managed.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is our player ratings from the 3-1 win in the semi-final. Let's move on to a couple of super chats before we get into reacts. And first up is from Phil P, and he says, if we get there, can I use your shower, please, lads? Woo!
Are you going to be covered in beer?
You can use our shower, Phil. No problem at all.
No worries, Phil.
No problem at all. Faz Radfar says, fans should stay calm if we go 17th this Sunday.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's quite likely. And with West Ham, potentially, if they beat us, obviously we go 17th. And I'm sure if we lose, if and when we lose, there'll be fans that sack him tonight. He doesn't deserve Thursday. All this stuff and blah, blah, blah. 20 defeats. It's all going to happen. It's all going to come. And look, I understand there will be frustration and warranted. But we have to make sure that after Sunday, let it all out on Sunday, because come Monday, it has to be in the back of our minds.
Conserve all your energy for Thursday. That's what I say.
Exactly.
Tom Witten with the super chat. Big up to Tom, and he says, more pints from me, lads. Hats off to Ange for getting it right with Biss and Rishi. Bodo couldn't handle the physicality.
And that's one thing they do struggle with. So we're going to have to make sure we make the most of that on Thursday.
Yeah, and I'll definitely be putting that super chat money towards beer on Thursday. That's for sure. I mean, probably put it all to the beers last night, to be fair. But that's Tom Witten. Tom Witten, another super chat says, also, you look like a hungover today. Hydrate, lads.
We've got our bottles of water. We're getting our hydration done. Come
on. Next one is from Malware. Ben should probably bring a ladder to the Hotspur Stadium as we are anticipating bringing home a European trophy. The cabinet will require dusting.
How many away? That's our third European
Get
trophy,
your dusters out, mate.
He's a Spurs fan. Yeah, he is. He's got a Spurs there. Just making sure. I was going to clap back.
Because it hasn't that trophy cabinet where we keep the European trophies hasn't been open since 1984, so it probably is a bit dusty.
Time to unlock that lock, mate. Time to open it. Get the key.
Yeah, if they still remember where the key is.
I haven't lost it. Imagine. I put it down somewhere 40 years ago. I swear it was on this desk 40 years ago.
It's probably in who was the chairman at that point? I don't even know who the chairman was in 1984. It's probably in his back pocket somewhere. All right, let's get into reacts and see how the internet did react to that 3-1 win yesterday. And first up is WeAreTottenhamTV saying, how did we allow Saltness to get a shot off from here?
Yeah, just look at that picture. This is so frustrating. He's able from this position with Romero to his left, Bentancur to his right, and Bissouma behind him. He barely has control of the ball here. I think Romero should probably at this point nick the ball in. I think he's too concentrated. The guy on the left, that guy running in. But I don't know how we've allowed him to turn and get the shot off and score a goal from that position there, where he's not even in a position to shoot there. He needs to get it onto his right and then shoot. I mean, how have we allowed that to happen? It's really frustrating.
It's ridiculous, man. You're 80, and look at the timing of the game as well. 82nd minute, 3-0 up, home and hosed, and you just give them that kind of way back into the
Three
game.
men around him. One of you has got to put a challenge in there. I know it's in the box. You don't want to give away a pen, but one of them has got to make a challenge in that position. It's ridiculous.
Really frustrating. But that's that. Moving on. Dele Alli, quote, retweeting us yesterday.
Come on.
Big up to Dele. So obviously we walked into the stadium yesterday, and as you can see there, everyone is just packed there on there, just by the atrium. And everyone is singing at the top of their lungs the Dele Alli song, and it was going on for a good 10-15 minutes non-stop.
We didn't even, that wasn't even most of it, that video.
Madness, absolute madness. So we tweeted that out yesterday, and Dele retweeted it with a couple of hearts and a crying face, emotional.
Warms my heart that he was able to see that and feels the appreciation and feels the love, because we still remember you, Dele. We still miss you. We still sing about you. It's funny, there's a moment in that video I think I go to, why are we singing about Dele Alli? And you go, because he's effing class. So
no true words said. No true words
Dele.
said.
But do you think, why did that song get going? Just because that was the song when our last European semi? Is that why it was a thing in this
I think
particular game?
in big moments, fans like to reminisce. They like to sing about the great players that we've had at the club. I remember last time we got to a semi-final, all the songs were coming out, Rafa van der Vaart and all this.
Yeah, but this was like a proper 10-minute version of just Dele.
I think it just got going, and then
no one wanted to stop.
No one wanted to stop.
Yeah, fair. But yeah, I'm just delighted Dele saw it, and it seems as though he enjoyed that. So
Big up to Dele Alli.
Big up to Dele Alli replying to us.
Bobby Stewart just saying, "Come on, you Spurs."
This was the drummer. There was a drummer there.
Yeah,
the drummer in the concourse
sits behind us. Yeah,
and there he is making a beat and getting the fans. So I'm guessing he's from Spurs song sheet.
Yeah, he's the guy that sits further up in the same block as us.
Yeah. So credit to him. He really got everyone going. You could see there. It was really getting everyone going.
Ayuli saying Radu wanted to high-five Pape, but Pape didn't notice him, so Sonny shook his hand to save him from feeling awkward and embarrassed.
You can see he sticks his hand out and Pape just doesn't see it. Sonny's like, here, you can have the high-five from him. Big up. That's captain material right there. Exactly. Making sure no one's left out.
Exactly.
Big up to Sonny.
Mari says, crumbs for my duo Dekison.
There, a little hug. Is that well, can't be after the game.
Sonny was full passion mode on the sidelines yesterday, wasn't he?
It was fun. Yeah, him, which is nice for him too, because I think in the last few games he hasn't been on the sidelines, but obviously for the big one he was there supporting the team. Yeah, he's got to be there. Hopefully he's makes it back in time for Thursday.
I haven't seen Sonny this happy in a long time. Mari7 saying this is the happiness we want to see on his face, and absolutely right. Just look at that smile.
Yeah,
lit up the whole stadium last night.
Yeah. And a lovely leather jacket. What do you think, Sonny, about Sonny in a leather jacket?
Stylish leather jacket, Sonny. Come on. Daily Hotspur says Sonny celebrates the third goal. Look at it. Look how invested he is in that game.
Yeah, come on. He knows it's a massive moment. It reminds me of scenes when Kane was. Well, he wasn't quite on the touchline, but Kane in the semi-final against Ajax, he was celebrating
from home.
No, he was watching on the touchline, wasn't he?
What, in Ajax?
Yeah, in Amsterdam,
yeah.
With Sanchez. I think he was sitting next to Sanchez, someone. And he was obviously one of the leaders at the time, and he knew, he'd imagine being one of the main players in the team, but you're relying on watching the team to get you to a massive final like that. It must be hard, but yeah, you can see he was invested. I think Ronaldo did it, didn't he, in the Euros when he got injured early on?
He started being the manager.
Son didn't quite get to that level, Sonny, but.
HQ saying Son Heung-min #UEL. So some more pictures of Sonny on the sidelines. Lovely to see him so smiling.
I think even TNT did a Sonny cam yesterday. Everyone was invested on Sonny on the touchline.
Next one is one that we've already seen already. Look at the difference between. Scroll down. Look at this. This is our Tifo last night.
That is what you call a Tifo.
That is what you call
a Tifo with a capital T.
Yeah. And this is Arsenal's one for a Champions League semi-final. Bear in mind, a shower curtain coming down from the top of the stand. What the hell is that? Seriously, what the hell is that? That is the most embarrassing Tifo I've ever seen in my life. And first of all, it was flat for the majority of the game in that stadium. Tottenham showed the world how to do atmosphere last night. That is how you do atmosphere. And yeah, look, it's not been great atmosphere at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for the most part of the season. but I haven't seen a better atmosphere all season.
Can you just
anyone.
go back to the Tottenham picture as well, the Tifo? It's just a great picture, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Look at that. It's got the flags there. You got the Tifo in the background. You got the cockerel right at the top there. Whoever took that picture, fair play. That is a stunning picture.
It was just such a great night in terms of atmosphere last night. I wish I could just do it all over again.
I know.
That's our last Europa League game at the stadium.
Hopefully for the final. Well, it won't be like that, but it'll be too tense, won't it, for the final if we get there?
Yeah, but just like pretty much, what was it, 60,000 people, all the same cause, all as up for it as everyone. Everyone was getting to the ground so early yesterday. Everyone was tanked up on the beers as well. It just caused for an unbelievable night in terms of atmosphere.
We'll have to, if we do a mass watch along for on Thursday, we'll have to do a mini Tifo.
No shower curtain.
No shower curtain.
But you gotta say that we definitely showed them lot down the road how to do a semi-final.
100%.
Because I don't think they know how to do it. They were just shambolic, to be honest, the Arsenal fans in the semi-final of the Champions League.
Yeah, and I'm just so proud of everyone rallying together yesterday and just everyone being on the same page. No one will even, doesn't matter how angry you are, even the most Levy out, Ange out people, they were all on the same page yesterday.
Yeah. Nice one. Sonny says, our captain's reaction to all 3 goals. Some more Sonny cam for you guys.
Don't move around too much, Sonny. Rest that foot. We need you fit for Thursday. But look at that. He's running around. He's basically on the pitch. Love that. Is Dragoshin not on the crutch? Oh, he's not been on the crutches for a while, has he, Dragoshin?
Is he not?
I think so. I think that we've seen him in the. I've seen him in the gym. There are videos of him in the gym. Nice. Love that from Sonny.
Next up, this is a sad picture, man. Lucas Bergvall on crutches with a protective boot on. I mean, you just can't have it all your way as a Spurs fan, can you? It's just like Bergvall out to the season is just such a massive blow.
Yeah, and apparently Ange said it was just an innocuous, like it wasn't a challenge. He just fell on his ankle, and just that was it. Like just something innocuous, and all of a sudden he's out for a while and out for the season. So I'm gutted for him because he was our most informed midfielder and he was in great form. And I had to do without him yesterday, but yeah, such a shame with the momentum he had been building, and that's what happened.
Yeah, this next one is from Yido Gus, and it just says Brennan.
So this was a couple moments in the game. This was where Udogie gets to the byline, should have pulled it back. Brennan's kind of ready and waiting, but this is where he goes for the shot instead of Brennan's in that zone where he likes to score goals. And then the other one was Decky in the last minute. He's got his back to goal. Brennan again in that position, ready to score, and he just doesn't pick him out. He tries to shoot. And I think, first of all, 2 big moments, but also just shows how often Brennan's just constantly in the right position, doesn't it?
True. And we always say, like, no matter what you think of Brennan, his positional play in the box is just elite, isn't it?
Yeah, and he could have had a hat-trick if he gets picked out in those 2 moments.
Tottenham Hotspur tweeted out this picture of Madison yesterday, and I absolutely love this picture.
That's phenomenal.
Brilliant stuff. It's just after he scored the goal. And, yeah, he seemed quite emotional last night, Madders.
Yeah, and I think it's obviously a big moment for him as well. Obviously, he's never won a trophy this big. Obviously, he's won the FA Cup, but a major European trophy.
A lot of our squad, that's for sure.
But a major European trophy, that would be massive for him. And I'm sure, like he feels it. He feels something special brewing. Hopefully.
Jesse Owasup says that the stadium has so much potential, man. We need more of these big nights.
100%.
And when you experience nights like that at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium,
and it's so loud.
That, the Arsenal game, the Ajax game, it just makes you think, like, why can't we be better more regularly? Like, it just lifts the whole team, doesn't it?
100%. And Decky said after the game in his interview, I wish the atmosphere was like that every game. And so do I. Unfortunately, we've just been beaten. And look, that's no excuse for fans. Like, they should be like that every game. But I feel like it's just a cultural thing in terms of us, in terms of fans in the Premier League in England. Like, we don't have this culture of, like in Europe, where it's just constant all game. You know, we're supporting the team. It's like we're very much, if the team's playing well a lot of the time, then we back it.
It used to be like that. That's gone. It's gone out of the game in England now.
In England, I'm saying in Europe it's still there.
Yeah, of course.
And we need to somehow bring it back.
Yeah,
I don't know how you do that. It goes against the demographic of fans and all that kind of stuff.
The only way you do that is to make football in England about the fans again, and it's just not that. When you're look at Germany. Germany do it completely right, and they got fans that support the team, win, lose or draw till the end.
In terms of that kind of atmosphere of flags and stuff, is it right that's kept for just big occasions?
I think so. You want it to feel special on big nights, and I think the club did a really good job of doing that yesterday.
Yeah, fair enough.
Jamie Catherwood says, lol, at 0.11, this is in the Dele Alli video. Why are you singing for Dele? Because he's class.
Yeah, no, someone picking up on it. That was fantastic. That was a really great moment. So, yeah, it was all good. Very good.
Ben Bowman says, nah, that fully killed me when the camera was panned to expressions for like a full minute. And they showed it on the big screens. Everyone was just bouncing around him.
Yeah,
I think it was more than a minute.
That was surreal. Like, it was, I think maybe Madison was getting treatment or something, or Solanke, and they just panned to expressions on the big screen for a full 2 minutes. Yeah, it was like they picked him out, and everyone just bouncing and having an unbelievable time around him. But I'm just watching. It's like they panned to a club legend or something, like watching again one of the former players or something. But his expressions, but unbelievable. And it was funny. It was so funny watching him on. He was really playing up to it as well. Yeah. Big up to X.
Amari says his happiness is contagious, super aura. It's so true, isn't it? It's so true. When you see Sonny smile, you can't but help but smile.
He brings a smile to your face. Look at that. You do anything to get that smile on his face.
Tadic says Dominic Solanke, another one of his anime celebrations yesterday.
Yeah, which I couldn't tell you what that is, but something.
But I'm sure you anime fans in the comment section can let us know what that is.
Go on, chat. You can tell us, chat.
Spurs pictures that go hard. This is Madders and Brennan's celebrating in front of the Bodo away end yesterday.
Sorry, where am I? Yeah, fantastic. And within a minute, they still seem to be smiling, some of these Bodo fans. They're just happy to be there, are they? But yeah, what a start to the game that was. Unbelievable.
Squawker giving us some game by numbers. Rodrigo Bentancur, most touches 62, most duels won 11 out of 12, most tackles, which was 5, and most aerial duels won 4 out of 4, while only Destiny Udogie 10, one possession more times than the Uruguayan. His aerial duels, man, has been so strong. Even his ground duels as well. But he's been in this Europa League run, particularly from the quarterfinals and now the semi-finals. He's just been on point, hasn't he?
Yeah, and he scored a few headers, isn't he, this season? He's definitely a big element to his game this season, I feel.
Even if he's not scoring them, he's always winning them. You know what I mean? He's been so unlucky not to put the ball in the back of the net from some of his headers.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and it was a great game from him, and that's him. And these are the levels we want to see from him. This is how he was playing before. It's brilliant.
Yeah. And Brennan Johnson has scored the fastest ever Europa League semi-final goal. 39 seconds on the clock.
And at that moment, you're thinking it's just going to be plain sailing. And it kind of was for a long time. But yeah, to score that early was just, the whole place just was lifted the roof off the place.
It was already erupting even before the goal went in. And it just sent it into overdrive, didn't it?
100%.
Football on TNT says Tottenham are now unbeaten in their last 20 home matches across European competition, including qualifiers. It's the longest ongoing home run of any English team who has featured in Europe this season.
So, who was our last loss at Ajax? Was that our last loss at home in Europe?
That must have been. Who else? We
haven't played 20. We must have played. That must have been 20. Yeah, because the season after. Oh no, Leipzig. We lost to Leipzig at home, didn't we?
That was after. Yeah.
Lost to Leipzig.
Leipzig must be the last one.
Yeah, it must be Leipzig. Because I don't think under Conte, I don't think we lost any of those home games. I don't think we lost any in the. Well, technically, we lost to Rennes in the Conference League, but we never actually played the game.
Yeah, but I think they're talking about actually
playing
a game, playing a game.
Well, on the records, it says 3-0 to Rennes.
True. It was a forfeit.
It was a forfeit. Oh, yeah. So it must be the Leipzig game. I can't think off the top of my head.
Spurs Web says Sonny enjoying this. So some more Sonny cam going on there. Next up is James Madison's club career. 170 goals and assists, 94 goals, 76 assists. It's quite something.
Fantastic. It's incredible. I think this season, he's now, on 18 goals and assists in all comps, I think. Madison. I think he's getting... no, he's over 20, isn't he, in all comps? But in the Premier League, I think maybe it's 17. 9 goals, 7 assists, 3 goals, 3 assists in the Prem. So he's on I can't see you in all comps. Anyway, I think his goals and assists to minutes ratio is really strong this season, like much better than it was previously. It's a fair play to him. I think he's been overhated, Madison. I feel like this season, a lot of people. I know there are some games he goes missing, but I think people like don't give him credit for a lot of the stuff he does. I feel.
Yeah, let's hope that he's okay for the second leg because we're going to really need him. Need him. Next up, we've got Tottenham away days. Tottenham display at home to Bodo Glimt tonight, and yeah, we've seen it. We've all seen it a million times. But let's have one more look at it. That Tifo last night,
yeah,
brilliant
phenomenal. Stuff. Yeah, it was so great being in there and seeing it on the big screen as well. That's the only shame about being in a Tifo is you don't get to see it kind of in the ground.
Yeah, I kind of was half. I had a thought last night, kind of like a half thought before going game. Obviously, when we got to the game, it just went out of my mind. I didn't go for it, but I was actually thinking, should I go over to the north stand just for when the Tifo's being lifted, just to get a bit of nice footage of that?
Oh, a lot of running.
But nah,
that would have been a nice idea.
Yeah, but I think I just completely forgot about that. By the time I walked into the stadium,
who's going to hold up your bag? I'm going to have to hold up too.
Yeah, it would have been deeply missed. Next up is from Lily White Lab, saying, mad these two were written off. We still have two excellent fullbacks here. Porro, passing was flawless. When the team sits back in the mid-block and don't put enough pressure on the ball, it's a cheat code having someone who can play such measured clips over the top. It's not easy because the space between the backline and the keeper is so minimal. He was also excellent in combining in deeper areas to get us out of high pressure. Udogie, so aggressive and eager to win the ball high up the pitch, caused so many positive transitions. His physicality is incredible and has real engine up and down that flank, can absorb any contact and doesn't phase in one bit. Very good combiner too. If these two have enough freshness in their legs, they're two top fullbacks. And I completely agree with that, to be fair.
Yeah, and I massively agree with that. And I think at times, you know, because the form we've been in and they've had some patchy form as well themselves, people forget what quality we have in those two players. And when they're at their best, that they have been recently, especially in the Europa League, like it's a timely reminder of how good they are. Like these are two unbelievable fullbacks, and I think we're lucky to have them, to be honest.
Tottenham tweeting out, Sonny is all of us right now, and he definitely was.
Well, I want to see it because this was tweeted out at half time, so that makes a lot more sense. Maybe instead of being tweeted out 3-1, but yeah, great picture there from Son. Oh, we've lost it. There you go. Oh no, down. There you go.
That one. Brilliant. Coral saying Tottenham really put Arsenal's Tifo to shame.
Come on, people are starting to recognise the quality. This is what a real North London club should be doing.
The thing is with Arsenal, like they did this crowdfunder. They raised like 10 grand to do a Tifo. They were doing like a Mikasa thing with Arteta and a couple of players that was actually going to look quite daunting. But then the club rejected it after raising all that money, and ended up putting that up there,
which was just shocking. Just honestly, so bad.
And I think that's it.
Yep,
I think that is it. So that is how the internet did react to the game last night. Brilliant stuff. And I think we'll get in straight to a Tottenham update. Yeah, we'll get into that in a second. Let me see if there's any chats to get through just before we do that. I don't think so. What are people saying in the comments?
Let me see. Jeffrey says, Ange is winning nothing apart from the award for worst manager of the century. Come on, Jeffrey. Come on, no need for that. We've got 1 foot in a semi-final.
I was bang on the Ange train yesterday. Tell him, Sim.
He was blazing the I'm loving Big Ange instead in the car on the way there. That's how it should be. That's how it should be.
I was saying, like, I don't understand these people that we're in a European semi-final. And whatever you think of the manager, whatever you think of the owner, whatever you think of anything, right? You put that all to one side for European semi-final. Everyone's got to be singing off the same hymn sheet. Everyone has got to be supporting the team to its fullest, and that includes the manager.
Apparently, Ange said in his presser today, he was asked about, the Wolves manager went into the pub after they won a game.
I didn't know that, did he?
A few weeks ago, yeah, they won a game and he won.
Vitor Pereira.
Yeah, and he went into a pub to celebrate with the fans. And Michael Bridge asked him, if you win the Europa League, you're going to go into any pubs, celebrating. And Ange said, I think I should be careful what pub I walk into at this point. Not sure if I'll be welcome or not. Which is a shame for him to say something like that. But I get it. I know he's being a bit facetious as well. But it's sad to think.
If we win the Europa League, he will be welcome in any pub on Tottenham High Road, no matter what the pub is. I guarantee you that.
Agreed. It's just sad that he jokes about it. I
think the majority of things he says like that is all tongue in cheek. Anyway.
It's definitely tongue in cheek, but there's an element of him understanding there's a lot of people just not happy with him at the moment, which is fair.
Yeah,
but it's also in this moment when he's even in a big moment where we would win the Europa League, and he's making jokes about people, not welcoming him to a pub. But it's just. Well,
it's a shame we're 16th in the league. Then it wouldn't be happening.
Yeah, it's fair.
But anyway, let's get into this Tottenham update. We're going to start off talking about injury news laid on by Ange Postecoglou in the press conference, and he says Lucas obviously looks like the injury is probably significant enough to keep him out for the remainder of the season. And a Swedish publication called Football Direct saying Lucas is set to be sidelined for at least 8 weeks, which is gutting.
Yeah, gutting. So that should pretty much take him to pre-season, really, which obviously he's not going to be playing much football after season anyway. But yeah, so gutting for him in the form he's been in, how he's kind of the status in the squad he's in, our first choice midfielder, the way he's been playing, the way he's been developing. Just for it to happen in training, he's pictured in training on a Wednesday, doing in the open training, no problem. Apparently he just rolls his ankle, doing one of the drills, and bam, he's out for 8 weeks, and he's got in a protective boot. I mean, how unlucky can you be? It's gutting for him. It really is gutting for him, gutting for us, because he's such a big player. Let's just hope he makes a full recovery when it's back. But
it's just the timing of it all as well. On the eve of a European semi-final, potential final he's going to be out for as well. I mean, it's just so gutting as well. Just after he signs that new contract.
Yeah, exactly. People are saying classic Spurs signs a new contract
classic,
and he announces it in a protective boot.
He also says Madison is a bit more of a concern as it's a knee. We've sent him for a scan, so they're just awaiting the results of those scans. Solanke injury, he says, doesn't look so bad, but whether he'll feature versus West Ham is in doubt. And he said Son Heung-min is back on the grass and working hard to be available for the second leg. So positive news on Sonny, but I mean, we've heard he's been back on the grass a few times in the last couple of weeks.
I mean, we saw him in training, and then that's before he even went missing, which was really weird. But I have to say, the Madison news does sound quite concerning.
Yeah.
He said he felt a tweak in his knee, and he took him off. He said he hoped not too serious, but he said he's more of a concern. He's having a scan. When it comes to the knee, you just never know. You could tweak something, and all of a sudden it could be something serious. And even if it's not, knees could be quite delicate. You need to be very careful with them. And I just hope he just felt a little. It was an impact pain or something rather than anything too substantial. But I have to say, that's not great news at all on Madison. If it's anything to do with the knee, anything will be out for the season. So let's hope it's not too bad. In terms of Dom, I'm a bit more confident on Dom just because he's such a robust player usually, and he's usually quite makes it through these things. But let's see if it's a muscle injury or not. It was interesting hearing Ange in his presser talk about these injuries, saying he feels like the squad. He's the reason he's so frustrated that these guys are getting injured, like Bergvall, Solanke, is because he feels like at the moment since the players come back, they've been managing the squad a lot better, and the muscle injuries have been vastly reduced, and those kind of things are not happening as much. But the injuries we're getting at the moment, they're just things you just can't control, like Bergvall twisting his ankle and Son getting a foot injury and stuff like that. So he feels like he's very frustrated. But do you have sympathy in terms of him feeling like they're managing the squad better since the injuries have come back? Or I think easier to do it when you're resting players. And
I think when you've got it is easier to do it in this moment in time because of the Europa League and the Premier League and the narrative surrounding everything. I thought maybe we should have rested a few more players for the game last week. But look, I'm not here to criticise the way Ange is managing the squad at the moment, because I think he's doing a fairly decent job.
Injury-wise, you mean?
Huh?
Just like on the injury front, I'm assuming you're talking about.
Just managing the squad, yeah. Let's move on and talk about a Graham Bailey report saying that Fabio Paratici has agreed terms over a return to Tottenham Hotspur. Paratici is set to be part of a new-look Spurs footballing department from July, along with new CEO Vinay Venkatesham, yeah.
And interesting report there. I mean, Graham Bailey, he used to be known as quite a reliable journalist when I think he used to work for the Times, but since then he's kind of gone to some really weird platforms. Like I think he was at Gimme Sport for a bit, and now he's wherever he is now. So I don't know if he's still seen as a reliable source, but very interesting that he's saying it's agreed. Obviously, he looked like he was on the verge of going to AC. That seemed to have broken down for one reason or another. Apparently, it broke down due to the length of the ban, and it wasn't up in time or something like that. So I don't know how that affects us. But it looks like maybe it's hotting up that Tottenham could be getting, a lot of people could be getting the Dom back, which they've been calling for. And I wonder if that's kind of part of another reshuffle this summer when it comes to some of the footballing operations.
Well, that's exactly what Graham Bailey is suggesting, that it's going to be a new-look footballing department to head up the summer and next season. And I think Fabio Paratici, I think he's a brilliant sporting director, and I'll be very happy to have him back. And maybe it's no surprise that we've seen him more regularly at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in recent weeks as well.
What kind of manager does he go for if obviously Vange is out
the
the door?
The rumours is that he wants Xavi.
Interesting. Be an interesting appointment.
Would you want to see Xavi at the club?
Obviously, he won the league with Barca, didn't he? But then he got then in the second season, for one reason or another, decided to get rid of him. I mean, it's hard to judge him as a manager. He was manager in Saudi, wasn't he, before? I don't know how he did there.
It was Qatar or
was
Saudi.
It Qatar?
Yeah, one of these.
I don't remember how he did there. Obviously, he probably got the Barca job more due to him being a legend, obviously. And obviously, he was such a smart player. It's hard not to think he's got a great footballing brain behind him. And you're seeing a lot of these kind of players. Obviously, Pirlo is a manager, but he didn't do a great job at Juve. But obviously, Alonso was a similar kind of just a very clever player and used his brain a lot when playing football. And he's turned into a great manager. You can even say Arteta as well, similar kind of player, had a great mind, and he's used that in management. So, judging just off the Barca job, it was actually quite an achievement to win the league when he did, because they won in a great way, Barca, and he managed to drag them to a title. But in the end, it didn't quite work out. It's hard to say. Did he win because they had great players, or was it just his management?
Has he had any other job in Europe apart from Barca?
Don't believe so. I think that was his first European job. I think. I mean, it'd be a very interesting appointment. I'm sure he's going to get us trying to play like, he would probably want us to play a bit of tiki-taka. I'm sure that's his kind of philosophy. So it'll be very interesting to see what kind of happens if he was to be appointed. But I do wonder if he was to be appointed and he wants to play high-risk football as well. Will he come up with? Will people accuse him of similar things? We'll see. As Ange.
Yeah, well, that's that. Let us know in the comment section below. Would you like to see Xavi as the next Spurs manager? The Bleacher Report reporting that representatives of Christopher Nkunku has been offered to the likes of Arsenal, Aston Villa and Tottenham. So his agent is offering him around. Obviously, we're trying to find a way out of Chelsea because it's just gone horribly wrong for him there.
Why do you think that is?
I'm not too sure, to be honest, because before he joined Chelsea, he was one of the most feared up-and-coming players around Europe. Everyone was talking about him. He's gone to Chelsea. He's had injury problems, and he's never really seemed to recover from it.
Yeah, do you think it's that simple? I also feel like they don't know where to play him. At Leipzig, he was kind of either a striker in a 2 or a number 10. And then for Chelsea, he's kind of either a proper number 9, where he's expected to be like Jackson, or he's on the left wing or something, where he's never really in his best, like maybe his best positions. But would we play him in his best position? I think that's part of it. And also,
what is his actual best position though?
I think he was at his best as a striker in a 2, I think, or a false 9 kind of thing. That's
not
where
going to happen at Spurs though, is it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think so. Unlikely. Depending on who the manager is, it might happen.
I think he should go to Aston Villa.
Villa would be good.
Get him playing up front with an Ollie Watkins, or I mean, if Ollie Watkins stays, I don't know, but they sometimes do play 2 up top.
But he did have a serious injury as well, didn't he? Because when he first went to Chelsea, he was ruled out for like a year. So maybe it's just that as well. Maybe he's just recovering from that.
The reality is with Nkunku, there's ridiculous talent there if you can harness it. There really is. So I think whoever can get the best out of him, you've got an unbelievable player there, and you can get him at probably a decent rate now.
Do you reckon Chelsea would be willing to deal with us now as well?
Yeah, I don't think Bodo cares. I saw a quote from Ruud Gullit. Yeah, did you see this one from Ruud Gullit?
He didn't know who he was.
Yeah, like Ruud Gullit went and he bumped into Bowley at Chelsea or something in one of the directors' box, and Bowley goes to him, what have you done? What have you done in your past? Like, who
what do you do? Yeah,
what do you do? And he's like, well, I actually used to play for Chelsea. I used to manage Chelsea. And he was like, oh right, how did your team do?
Do you win any games? Do you score any goals? Nice.
That's mad though, isn't it? The owner of Chelsea saying that.
Yeah, it's just this day and age, isn't it?
Yeah. And last but not least, Give Me Sport claim that Tottenham could make a surprise inquiry for Atletico Madrid's midfielder Conor Gallagher.
Oh, not this again.
Amid the Spanish club's interest in signing Cuti Romero and Rodrigo Bentancur.
I thought we were stopping this. The Daily Gallagher. How are we back here? He's literally settled at Atletico, doing great. Like, how are we still being linked with him?
Because we're trying to get him in a swap deal for potentially a Bentancur or a Romero.
It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world.
Yeah,
if they were to leave. Do you reckon maybe it's a whole? Who was that player that we wanted to sign, and then he signed for like a Belgian team just so we could sign him? What was his name? Zeki Friars. Oh, yeah. Remember that? We wanted him for United. United refused to sell. So he basically joined Liège just so we could because we had that connection, so he would join us. So maybe we spoke to Atletico, like, look, just sign him, just keep him for a year, and we'll take him off your hands.
And you can have Romero in the summer.
And you can have Romero, exactly. I mean, it wouldn't be terrible to get Gallagher out of the Romero deal.
Yeah, I mean, Chelsea fans still hold Gallagher so close to their hearts, right? If we were to sign Gallagher, that will surely ruffle a few feathers in the Stamford Bridge.
Maybe that's the only way it can happen, with him not coming directly from Chelsea.
Yeah, but it'll still wind them up for sure.
Oh, for sure.
But anyway, let us know. Would you take Gallagher in a potential swap deal with Cuti Romero? Let's say we were this deal that Gallagher was willing to come and Romero wants to go there. Blah blah blah. How do you think that deal gets done? Do we pay them money? Do they pay us money, or is it a straight swap? Like, how does it work?
How much did they sign him for? And then it was only like 45, wasn't it? So I think they would have to pay us like 20 million plus Gallagher or something.
20 mil plus Gallagher for Romero. Would you take that?
Probably would.
I think it could even be less than 20 mil, maybe even like a 10 mil. But anyway, that's your Tottenham update. Let us know in the comment section below your thoughts regarding all those news stories. We've got a couple more super chats to get into before we look ahead to the game on the weekend. Another one from Malware says, big up, boys. Just became a member. Love the work you guys do on this channel. So creative. Let's keep the energy going into Northern Norway. Big up to you, Malware, and welcome to the family. Just don't start infecting people.
That's what I'm hoping, yeah. So when you click that super chat, all of a sudden, bam, you get infected. Let's just hope that doesn't happen. But big up to you, Malware. Appreciate you.
And Brian Daigle with the super chat, and he says, Give Me Sport needs to change to Give Me Bullshit.
and we take it all day long. That's why we keep taking it. But I think you might be right there, Brian.
All right. Now it is time to move on into the game against West Ham, a game that they're dubbing as the El Crapico.
Second El Crapico of the season. How many? Then we're going to have an El Crapico final potentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're the El Crapico champions so far.
But look, we're going to get into first and foremost the predicted lineup. Ange has been speaking at the press conference. What is the team news going into the game?
So Sonny unavailable, potentially back for Thursday, back on the grass, but not available on Sunday. Solanke is a doubt, might be available, but it's not confirmed. But he had a little niggle on Thursday. He had to go off early, so he's a doubt for Sunday. Madison having a scan on his knee, so he'll be unavailable for Sunday. Hopefully it's not too bad. And the big one, Lucas Bergvall, is ruled out for the season with an ankle injury after twisting it in training, unfortunately, innocuously, according to Ange. And obviously Dragoshin out till probably the new year, so he's obviously a long-term injury. But all of a sudden, that injury list starting to mount again after we had such a quiet period. It didn't last too long, did it?
No, so frustrating. And in like the most pivotal moment you can imagine in the season as well, with a European semi-final, second leg, and a potential final as well, which is very frustrating. But anyway, 4-3-3 as per usual. As we say every league game, is this the game for Kinski? Can he finally make an appearance?
Yeah, Ange was saying, he's going to have to make changes, and he's saying it doesn't help. He said, which is quite an interesting hint, he said it doesn't help the team in the Premier League. We're going to have to make 8-9 changes, but basically he said, I got to do what I got to do. So kind of hinting at many, many changes in this game. Is Kinski one of them? Go on, let's put him in.
All right.
Go on, Kinski. Kinski's getting a run out. Let's see. Come on, Kinski.
Right. Kinski in goal. Right back. I think Pedro gets left out for this one.
The thing is, we need grey midfield because we don't really have any midfielders.
Yeah.
So one of Porro or Udogie is going to have to play.
Yeah. Udogie did play the last Premier League game, didn't he?
Yeah,
It was
so
Udogie and Spence. Is it going to be Porro and Spence?
it's going to have to be, I guess. Unless he puts Davis and Spence.
Davis at left back.
And then Danso and one of the centre-backs. That's the only other option, unless he does something creative like Sarr at right back or something. But even then, we need him in midfield. So
Reguilon's there.
I just don't see it.
Why not though? And in a game like
know.
this, why not?
I understand. I just don't. He just hasn't. And if he hasn't, I don't think he will.
Did at Tamworth, and that game
He
meant
did
more
at
than
Tamworth.
this.
Yeah, he did at Tamworth. You're right. That was a non-league team. I would like. I guess I wouldn't mind it.
If this was me making this team, I would be putting Spence at right back and Reguilon at left back. That's what I would be doing.
I think Udogie did put a lot into it on Thursday. It looked.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't
So
want
did
him.
Porro though.
Yeah, but Porro's so durable. He hasn't had an injury all season, has he?
Yeah, exactly. That's why we need to keep him fresh.
I just feel like he'll probably. I feel like it'll be Porro and Spence. That's what he's going to go for. I think if Bergvall was maybe fitter or something, and we had more option midfield, maybe we'd put Gray there because we need Gray midfield. I think he's going to have to use one of them. I think he will use one of them. I should say.
All right, let's go for Porro right back. I kind of agree with you. I don't think he's going to use Reguilon. I just think he should.
So
use
Porro,
Reguilon.
and then we'll put Spence at left back.
Yeah, so Porro right back, Spence left back. Danso definitely plays at centre back. That's a given.
Yeah, I think he goes Danso and Davis again. To be honest.
Yeah, I agree.
I think he clearly rested Van de Ven and Romero on against Liverpool. Didn't want to risk them, and I think given the circumstances with our game, we won't want to risk them again. I think he's going to just. I think he admitted he's going to make 8-9 changes. So I think he's kind of implying he just doesn't really care about these games. So
Yeah, so Porro right back, Spence left back, Davis and Danso in the back two. So that's basically 4 changes already in the lineup that we're going for. Moving on to the midfield, are we looking at Archie Gray in the 6 again?
I think we are. Looking at Archie Gray in the 6. So I think he comes in. He said as well, he's talking about Gray, saying it was a difficult day on Sunday, but he said the experience will help him and he's going to get more opportunities. So I think that line implies maybe a start is in line on
And you
Sunday.
know what? He had a very hard day at Anfield last time out. And I'm not saying this is an easy test by any stretch of the imagination, but it is a team that is dramatically off form in West Ham. So I'm expecting Gray to have a bit more joy in this one.
Yeah, agreed.
Moving into the other spots in midfield, I think Pape comes in the 8, that's for sure.
Yeah, didn't get any game time at all, did he,
No, he
yesterday?
didn't.
So he definitely plays.
And then alongside Pape,
It's basically Bissouma or Decky. That's it.
Yeah.
Or
Bissouma does-
Bentancur, I guess, if you want to play Bentancur.
I don't think Bentancur plays. I think there is a chance for Bissouma. Bissouma does play a more advanced role, doesn't he, for Mali in his country?
Yeah, but also, wouldn't it, maybe it would help Decky get some more rhythm in his game? Just give him a start here, give him an hour, and then take him off if he's waning and stuff.
The problem is with Madison potentially being out, and, you know, by what he's saying, I'm expecting him kind of to be out for that second leg. You kind of just want to wrap Decky in cotton wool, don't you?
You do, but also you want to kind of get him into form.
Yeah.
And on the same side, you want him to get him some minutes so he's getting a bit better. Because at the moment, he just seems to be struggling a bit. And maybe if you play him, maybe he can get more into a rhythm, get more into him, as Andrew would say.
All right, let's go for Decky then. Because I do think it will be Bissouma and Bentancur again in the second leg.
I agree.
So a middle three of Gray, Sarr and Decky. I think the number 9 is going to be Richarlison, obviously, because Solanke does have a problem. He won't make the game. So Richarlison goes in the 9.
The only other option would be to tell there like he did at the end of the game yesterday.
Yeah, I don't think he will. I think he'll go for Richie.
I agree.
On the wings, now on the right-hand side, is he going to go for Odebear? Is he going to go for Johnson?
Well, seeing as Odebear and Tell didn't start against Bodo, they probably start here.
Well, it depends on what his plan is to start out in Bodo. Is his plan to keep that same forward line for Bodo? I'm not sure it would be.
Obviously, we've got Son potentially back in contention. We don't know if he is, though.
Is his plan going to be to play an Odebear until, well, if Son doesn't come back against Bodo? Because if his plan is to play Odebear and Tell from the start, then they probably won't start on Sunday. And Johnson will retain his space.
No, I don't think he's going to change the team too much. I don't think. Well, you never know. But I think it will be depending on. I think that team that beat Bodo will probably be. That is his team, unless someone performing can sway his decision. So I don't think he starts Odebear because he's saving on Thursday. I think he'll start Odebear, but he could win his spot for Thursday if he has a great game, like Wortel, something like that. There are spots. I think that team that played yesterday is probably the team he's thinking to start. But I think there are some spots that are definitely open. Like I think the Richarlison on the left, that's definitely open. Johnson's probably open. Maybe even Bissouma's spot if Sarr has a great game, maybe that's open. The other ones are pretty much on lock. But I think there are some spots that can be fought for potentially.
For me in this game, I think it's the perfect game for Mikey Moore. Like against a team that open at the minute, they're conceding so many goals. Why not give Mikey Moore a chance in this game? That's what I would do.
I'd like to see Mikey Moore. I just think we're going to give Odebear and Tell the run out. That's what I think is going to happen. I think we're going to give them the minutes as well because they obviously Tell did play 45 to be fair.
Odebear played like 20.
Odebear played like 20, so I definitely think Odebear starts. And also the last time we saw them both start was against Forest. They did quite well. And I think the minutes will do them good. They're then playing. If
Sonny's in line to play on Thursday, then I think it's more of a chance. If one of them's more likely to play, it'll probably be Tell. If Sonny's going to play on Thursday.
Well, we have to see. We have to see if he's fit. But I think he's going to play I think Tell and Odebear will play regardless because they didn't play that much yesterday, and they need to basically play their way into the team. I guess that's the theory. If they didn't start yesterday, which they didn't. So
yeah, I'm just not sure. I just got a feeling that Odebear is going to start on Thursday. I've just got that feeling, and I feel like if he's planning to play Odebear on Thursday, I think he'll probably play Johnson on Sunday.
But he's more risking injury if he starts Johnson than Odebear, you'd say, because he's playing in quick succession.
Yeah, that's true, but I feel like he's trying. I think he'll want to play Odebear.
If there was no game on Sunday, he probably just goes to the same 11, doesn't he?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No, I think he'll make changes. I think he'll see that we weren't maybe direct enough, clinical enough, and he'll want to put that right, I think.
I don't know. I think he'd think it went well.
It went well to a certain extent, but it's going to cause. He knows that the away leg is going to cause different issues, and we're going to need to be a lot more direct and clinical if we're going to, take away a win from that place. And I don't know. I just feel like Odebear and Tell have the skill set to attack the fullback a lot more than maybe a Richie and a Brennan.
I agree with that, and I thought they were going to start yesterday, but they didn't. And he started in that way, and we ended up with a good performance, a bit more controlled, and it went well. So I just think that team is probably right now the team he envisages playing.
Like, did he make changes from the first leg to Frankfurt to the second leg to Frankfurt?
The only one I remember was Son, but he was injured.
Was that the only one?
That I can remember off the top of my head.
Maybe you're right. I
think he just went with the same team.
Or do you not think he's going to be like keep the Bodo manager second guessing a little bit? I mean, he's got players to work with. It's not like just because Richarlison and Brennan played the first leg, they're going to play the second leg.
I'm not saying it's definitely going to be the team, but I'm saying the team, that's going to be the team he's envisaging, unless Odegaard and Tell really change his mind on Sunday. That's my thinking. And if one of them has an unbelievable game, and like you're thinking, okay, they kind of have to play, then they're playing well, then maybe he'll switch it. But I think right now, if the game was on Sunday, he would pick the same team, I think.
To be fair, he's gone with Johnson in all the big games this season, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So maybe you're right. Odegaard on the right wing.
I think it'll be Odegaard and Tell again. But I'm saying if those two, if one of them has a really strong game, I think easily one of them could start on Thursday. Or both even.
I think, it's important to give like Mikey Moore some significant minutes as well in this game. Like, I feel like, look, we've gone over it so many times, but with what he's shown in the Spurs shirt so far this season, there's no reason why he can't come in these Premier League games and get some minutes.
Yeah, I would like to see him play. He was on the bench yesterday. Unfortunately, didn't get any minutes, which was nice to see him on the bench, though, at least. But, yeah, I think it's a shame that we haven't seen him in a while.
And as well, like, the fans are kind of, like, checked out from the Premier League, right? And with Moore coming on and playing, or even coming from the start, it makes the fans a bit more invested in the game.
And I guess there's another player you could say maybe has a shout is Scarlett, because if Solanke has any sort of serious injury and he can't play on Thursday, Richarlison's going to have to play. So maybe Scarlett has a shout to play on Sunday as well, but maybe off the bench.
But anyway, this is the lineup that we are going for. Kinski in goal, Porro right back, Spence left back, a back two of Danso and Davis, Gray, Sarr and Decky in the middle three, Odegaard on the right, Tell on the left, and Richarlison up top. So that is our predicted lineup going into the game. Let's move swiftly on into the match preview.
One player we didn't even consider for a second was Timo Werner.
Yeah, I mean,
not even for a second.
Why would we? Why would we?
Yeah.
He hasn't been considered by the manager since he came on in the last few minutes of the Man City game. But apart from that, he hasn't been in a matchday squad since Tamworth.
It's true.
So if the manager's not considering him, then why should we? But anyway, let's get into the match preview. West Ham against Tottenham in a game which is dubbed as West Ham's Cup Final as always, and it's also going to be dubbed this year as the El Crapico, as these two teams are sitting in, I think, 15th and 16th or 16th and 17th in the league, whatever it is. And both the teams are just going into it really kind of down in the dumps in terms of Premier League. The thing that we've got going for us is that we're in a European semi-final, but Graham Potter's come into West Ham and he hasn't really had any sort of impact, has he?
Not only that, he seems to be getting more and more frustrated, doesn't he? In post-match interviews and press conferences and things like that. He seems to be seeming more and more lost for ideas, and he seems to be losing his cool a bit, where he's usually quite ill-mannered, a kind of calm guy who doesn't really get too emotional. But definitely recently in press conferences, he's starting to get really annoying. He nearly swore in the last one. Obviously, they went 1-0 up in the 83rd minute and they lost it and gave it away, and that must be very, very frustrating. But yeah, I think he's tried a number of different things, and he's tried different formations, and he's tried different players in different positions, and nothing has just seemed to work at the moment. He just can't seem to get a tune out of them. And I bet you Lopetegui's probably looking smugly saying, yeah, I told you. But yeah, I think at the moment Potter's tearing his hair out a bit about what he can do to change and turn things around and gain some kind of traction, because it looked like they beat Arsenal at the Emirates, and that maybe thought, is that a turning point? But it just turned out Arsenal weren't very good on the day, and that was it, really.
Yeah. But you just know, though, it's just the way it works, the way the footballing gods work against Tottenham. West Ham will be on this form, and on this one day where it doesn't really matter too much for Tottenham, where it's all about kind of conserving for Thursday and building up for Thursday, it would all just probably click for West Ham on the day.
Yeah, I think one thing you've got to give West Ham a bit of credit is that they've definitely they're not playing great football, but maybe it's because of how they were playing under Lopetegui, but their counter-attacking is a bit better when they're in that kind of mode. Like against Brighton, they were quite good just sitting a bit deeper and kind of counter-attacking. When they went to Arsenal, it was quite a good defensive display. When they went to Liverpool, they could have easily gone something like that game, basically just playing a bit counter-attacking. So I do envisage them playing fairly similar to that, maybe against us, just sitting in, giving us the ball and trying to exploit us on the break with Bowen in behind and people like that.
How do you expect the mentality of Spurs going into this game? Because we've seen a bit hit and miss, recent weeks in the Premier League, full of individual errors. That's what's been a constant in these games. But some games we've been up for it. Some games we haven't. With the game, can't get as big. Much bigger than Thursday. You know what I mean? They're getting bigger and bigger as they progressed. Obviously, do you feel like Spurs, the team on the pitch, are going to be fighting tooth and nail for the team, or do you think it's just going to be whatever? Thursday is where it's at.
Yeah, unfortunately, obviously I don't think I'm going to consciously throw the game, but with the game, first of all, the short turnaround and the fact that we got such a massive game on Thursday, all the players are just going to have half an eye on it, even if they're not 100% involved and stuff. It's just natural, and I think I see. I think there'll probably be quite a few mistakes. I think obviously the back line, the back two anyway, Danto, Davis haven't. I guess the partnership when they came on against Forest was not bad, but by and large it hasn't been great when them two have been together. Gray is the sitting number 6. Is he going to get bullied by the likes of Paquetá and Ward-Prowse and Alvarez and Kudus and people like that? I think for sure we know we've got bigger fish to fry, unfortunately. Well, it is fortunate that we have bigger fish to fry, but I think one of the consequences of that is games like this will be falling by the wayside. And
I wish you never have said that.
What?
Bigger fish to fry.
It's all in our hands. Shouldn't have said anything. I think Thursday's bigger for us. It's just natural. Why wouldn't it be? It's obvious. And I think as much as it's a derby for both sides, obviously it's much bigger for West Ham. And they know that, this is basically one of their few chances left for them this season just to bring some joy to the fans. Yeah. Now, if we didn't have this Europa League game, you'd probably say something similar for us. But we do. So whether we win or obviously we win it and we can do one over, it'll be a nice day. But ultimately, what we really care about is Thursday, where for them this is their biggest game of the season almost because they've got nothing else.
It's true, but I think even probably West Ham fans are going into this game being yeah, it's West Ham against Tottenham. Yeah, in terms of rivalry, it's a big game, but I think this is probably going to be the quietest stadium West Ham Spurs that we've probably seen. I don't think either fan base are probably up for this one.
Probably, but I would say West Ham probably just a bit more because this is all they've got left. This is all that they've got nothing else this season. So this is going to be their biggest game until next season. Whenever they play a big game next season. So this is all they've got to shout about. This is all they've got to give the fans. So if Potter wants to try and start getting some fans on side and start getting results, it starts with putting in a good performance in this kind of game. This is a really good way to do it. And what I envisage is probably a game similar to maybe the Arsenal game where they get their goal. They get a goal from a set piece or something. Just we make a mistake and they score, and then it's kind of just them sitting in, us huffing and puffing without really showing much intent or urgency. Never really looked like scoring, and West Ham seeing it out. I just see a bit of a drab game happening on Sunday. But if they do get a win, that's still a really positive day for their fans, for West Ham.
The reality is with West Ham, to be fair to them, I know they've been poor all season and definitely under Potter, but if they do click on any given day, they've got some quality there in their forward line with Mohamed Kudus, Lucas Paquetá, Jarrod Bowen, and I think the players like Jarrod Bowen have never really kind of dipped their standards throughout the season. I think Jarrod Bowen has been a constant throughout, but they've got some real quality in that team.
Which is why it's so frustrating they are where they are, because I think, for them, not for us, but I think I predicted them, I think, in the top 6 before the season because I saw the quality they got, I was like, that's some serious talent there. And I was looking at their team, I was like, there's not really an area of the team or an area of the squad where I'm like, wow, that's really bad. They've got good players all over the park, especially that forward line. Kudus and Bowen can get into a lot of top 6 teams. Paquetá, heavily linked with Man City. Todibo, heavily linked with a lot of top European teams. And Wan-Bissaka is a good right back, That
Paquetá, he's such a good player, man.
He's
On
incredible.
his day, he is really an incredible player. And I'm just thinking about, like, how the hell did West Ham get a player like that?
I know they got, what was it in January? Was it in a January they got him?
What, 2 years ago or last year?
Or no, maybe Bruno went in a January. But I remember he was much talked about at Lyon, and they pushed the button and got him. I think this season's been a bit of a weird one for him because I think with all the betting charges and everything hanging over his head, it's kind of meant he's not been as good. I feel this season he's still a quality player though.
Yeah, but I still feel like, even with those kind of things hovering over him and he's not performing at his best, he's still such a hard player to play against. He's always drawing those fouls and he's always putting you under pressure.
Oh, don't get it twisted. He's probably going to be in top of his game on Sunday.
Yeah, of course he will.
Because it's a massive game and we know when he decides to turn up, he's a tough player and he's brilliant and he's quality. I'm just saying overall this season, in terms of consistency, he's really struggled for it. Maybe as well the failed move to Man City is playing on his mind a bit as well. Maybe he's had his head turned a bit.
These allegations and charging ain't going away.
Yeah, nothing's happened yet, has it?
Nothing has happened, but they're all every few months some new rumours start to pop up with it.
And there was even rumours he nearly went to Brazil last year.
Yeah,
because of it. Obviously, Kudus has been a weird one this season. He's just been off the boil, really.
Yeah.
Like, he's a player who I think thrives when he's given freedom and he can do things on his own to beat players, get shots off. But I don't know what it is, but obviously Lopetegui used to play him on the left, and I don't think that's his right position at all. I think you don't want him stuck on the wing like that. You want him where he can get shots cut inside. But I kind of feel like the problem with him and Kudus, him and Bowen into the same team is they kind of both like being off the right, and neither of them are at their best when they're striker. I think Bowen can do a job there, and he's proven he can score goals in that position. But he's a bit like Son. Like, in certain games, he can be really effective in that position, but you play him consistently there, and the goals will start to dry up a bit. Like, he's not a striker you want all the time in that position. You want him off the right. And I think Kudus is a bit different, where physically he might be able to do it, but he's just not a striker who likes to run beyond the last defender. He likes the ball to feet and he likes to take people on. So I think they both
he's
like
only
to play
happy
off
when
the
he's
right.
beating a man, Kudus.
Yeah, so I think maybe he needs to play in the 10, but then maybe Paquetá's best position in the 10. So maybe it's a profile issue with their front line. But I think Kudus, has definitely suffered for it this season, for sure. I don't know how many goals he's on this season, but
He scored the other week.
It's kind of really dried up for him, Kudus, this season.
You remember back when we played them at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium earlier this season, Kudus was actually the one that was causing us all the problems, and then he ended up getting sent off. But he was the one that, we were struggling to handle a bit.
4 goals and 2 assists. Last season he got 14 goal contributions. He's halved it this season to 6, really, or nearly halved it. So it's been a big drop-off this season. But that's the thing. Under Lopetegui, they were playing a lot more counter-attacking and stuff, and they were just on that specific day. It was like, give it to Kudus and make something happen, and he nearly did. But they were playing him in the wrong position. So I think they're struggling to figure out who to play where. Obviously, they've got Fulkrug now, so they got a bit of he's been injured most of the season. I do think he kind of improved him a bit. He's a bit of a focal point, big
Aggressive
battering
player,
ram, aggressive, get balls in the box. They haven't had that. So I think he improves them a bit. But it's about who do you play where. I think in a perfect world, you probably play Bowen on the right. I mean, Somerville apparently is out for the season, so he's not going to play, but probably someone on the left, and then you play Kudus in the 10, and you play Paquetá alongside someone in the 8s in the midfield. But I don't know, they've always wanted to kind of try and fit Paquetá in the 10. They've always wanted to fit Kudus somewhere else because Bowen wants to play on the right. So they kind of struggle with who plays where.
Yeah, and look, I shudder to say this, but if I was a West Ham fan, I'd be so frustrated with the way things are going, with the quality that they have. We're all talking about this is the best West Ham squad that we've seen in our lifetimes, and they're sitting back where they belong in the lower end of the table.
In the past few games against better sides, how they usually set up seems to be a 3 at the back with Byrne and Kudus as the front two.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad solution,
Yeah.
I think, because I think Kudus will be better up front in the two, like Byrne probably would be as well. Neither of them would want to be by themselves. But for one reason or another, they've played that. I think it's helped them in away games. Like against Brighton, they played quite well. They should have won. Liverpool away quite well. I'm pretty sure they played that formation against Arsenal as well. Let me get that up. I think they played this three at the back. Yeah, against Arsenal as well, they played that three at the back system. So they've kind of found this 3-5-2 formation, which has been kind of helping them against bigger sides. But it's like it's got them good performances, but results-wise, apart from the Arsenal game, it's still not really changed much.
So, yeah, it's a hard game to kind of analyse before because you just don't know how Tottenham are going to turn up to it in terms of, you know, Thursday in the back of our minds. West Ham have been poor, but you probably think that they're going to raise their game for a game like this. And our record against West Ham at the London Stadium has obviously been pretty poor.
It was good for a time.
It was good
now
for a
it's
time,
bad.
but now it's back to being bad again. So I don't hold too much hope for this game. But you just know, including myself, I'm obviously very guilty of it. If we do lose, and quite convincingly, it's going to cause a lot of frustration.
Yeah, and it'll be 20 defeats, get this guy out, doesn't deserve Thursday, sack him now. Our best chance of getting through on Thursday is with Ryan Mason. It's all going to come up again, and we're going to be in this cycle until Thursday comes around, and hopefully we get through. But yeah, I think if they play that three at the back formation, I think that probably logically is probably a formation we are going to struggle with, especially the 3-5-2, because a lot of the time we like to keep only two defenders back.
Yeah.
So if you're keeping two strikers up against our two defenders, you could see where that could go wrong. And especially you got the two strikers up against our two defenders, and you got wing backs just out wide hugging the touchlines up against our fullbacks who like to invert. Could be a bit of a recipe for disaster. Now, the only thing is they're not in great form, and they maybe struggling a bit of confidence and stuff like that. But I can see definitely Bone or Kuda scoring a goal. A mistake from Davis or Dance or whatever, whoever it is, will make a mistake. They'll get a goal. They'll go 1-0 up. The only chance we have of getting a result is maybe getting a goal, the first goal. Maybe it starts to sound a bit toxic there, and they start to go into their shell a bit, and that's maybe the only real opportunity I see of us getting a result. But if they take the lead and get the crowd on their side, it's only one way this game is going.
Yeah, and when you're looking at our games from now until the end of the season, you've got West Ham, Palace at home. We've got another away game, Villa away, and Brighton at home. Those 4 games left of the season. I mean, this is probably our most winnable game out of the last 4 games, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Especially if we win on Thursday as well. But even if, I mean, on paper, it's definitely the most winnable game. 100%. They're the only team we're going to face who's below us. So if we don't win this game, it's hard to see us winning any other game. That's the reality. But I just don't see it. I don't see us winning many games. But if we win on Thursday, I'm not going to be too bothered by it. But we have to win. If we don't win on Thursday, then all hell's going to break loose, and it's all going to be like all this pain, all this suffering, all these defeats is going to be for absolutely nothing. And it's going to, if we look, it's so weird. This could be potentially our best season, potentially one of our best season, or if you could call it our best season in our lifetime if we lift that trophy. Would you say it is? If we lift that trophy, it's our best season in our lifetime?
It's definitely going to be the best moment. Best moment of our lifetime, that's for sure. I don't know if you can call it season, just because of the way the Premier League has gone.
You wouldn't call 2008 our best season, I guess.
No, but definitely best moment.
But it's either our best moment or it's our worst ever season in our lifetime.
Yeah.
It's so. But how weird is it that only Tottenham, it's like down to a few games, whether it's a great season or a bad season. It's like, how can that? Usually it's determined by the whole season, whether it's good or bad, but it's down to a few games whether it is for us.
There's so much hinging on just a knife edge around this season, the manager's future, the fans' feeling towards the season. Just like everything hinges on this game on Thursday and then and hopefully a cup final. It's all it hinges on. So look, as much as I'm going to sit here and say like this game on Sunday don't matter and the rest of the Premier League games don't matter.
Remember that on Sunday at 4 p.m.
You know, exactly, that's what I was about to say. You know when the game comes round and you're sitting here, I'm sitting here in the watch along, you're there in the stadium. it all matters because you just
You're
want to
watching
see
a game.
Tottenham. You just want to see Tottenham perform at the end there, and that's what fans live for.
When you're watching the game, you're invested in it. Otherwise, what's the point watching? You
Yeah.
know, once the game comes around, all of a sudden you know, can we get up to 13th maybe if we win or some whatever it is we'll get to if we win? Like all of a
The
sudden
lofty heights of 13.
all of a sudden you get invested and you think, oh, you know, take good momentum into Thursday, all these different things, and then once the game starts, well, usually goes to shit. But it's been, it's been a hard watch. It's been a frustrating watch throughout the season, and it's probably going to, I envisage something similar on Sunday. And it's not me being all negative and saying we're rubbish and all that kind of stuff. It's more just about this is reality. Even if we were having a good season and we were, you know, near the top of the table, it would be understandable if we took our eye off the ball in this kind of game.
And I think the same goes for Arsenal going into the game on the weekend. It goes to the same with Manchester United going into the game on the weekend. I doubt Chelsea because they're pretty much home and hosed and they've got like Champions League football.
Well, Thursday the league games are bigger.
Exactly, league games bigger than their European campaign. So I feel like for Arsenal, Man U and Tottenham, I know Tottenham have been terrible all season, but you can probably give them a pass for taking their eye off the ball this weekend if it meant going to win on the Thursday night or Wednesday, whatever they're playing in. But when you're there in the moment, 2 o'clock kickoff, you've got to win the game.
Got to win it. Anything else is unacceptable. But obviously, especially if we lose to West Ham, who are 17th, and we go 17th, you're going to go, we're losing to West Ham. It's a disgrace. They're 17th. Look at their form. We're the only win.
It just carries on the narrative, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because we would have lost to West Ham, lost to Wolves, lost to Leicester, lost to Ipswich. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it will. But this is just the situation we're in.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's it. And it'll be important to remember that come Sunday. I'm sure a lot of people won't. But and I'm sure we'll hurt once we probably do get that defeat. We probably will get, or whatever it is, dropping points on, or the dry performance we'll probably get on Sunday. It'll happen, and we're just gonna have to take it on the chin. Gonna have to cop it, and we're gonna have to look forward to Thursday.
You've been copying it all season.
We could have, but you know what? We're one step away from a final, so could be all worth it.
All right, so score prediction.
1-0 West Ham.
1-0 West Ham. I'm going to go for 1-1. I'm going to say Spurs take away something from the London Stadium. I'm hoping for anyway, because I'm going to be here on the watch along with Ash Matic. And Sim is going to be going into the depths
My favourite stadium.
of East London.
How I love it.
Stadium.
How I love the East London Stadium. Can't wait. I've got my binoculars at the ready.
Yeah, you got them ready, yeah?
Yeah.
All right, brilliant. But that's it from us today. I'll see you back here on Sunday, just before 2 o'clock for the watch along with Ashmatic. But thank you everyone for keeping with us for this 2 and a bit hours. We'll see you all soon, guys. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.